Chapter 1232. However, Ning Qing didn't give Yin Xingwen any face and spoke up in a cold voice. Yin Xingwen, you're the master of the Grand Change Realm. Yet, you use tens of thousands of innocent girls in the Grand Change Realm as pure bodies to suppress the seal. I don't need to say anything, but I believe that everyone here knows about it. Not only do they need young girls, but they also need to be extremely kind-hearted. Could it be that kindness was used by others? If this goes on, wouldn't the world be filled with evil people? Since Su Shenghe proposed such a vicious sealing method, why wouldn't I kill him? Could it be that this vicious sealing method wasn't proposed by Su Shenghe, but by Star Wind Realm Lord? If that's the case, then I can apologize to Su Shenghe and ask for Star Wind Realm Lord's opinion. Yin Xingwen was a shrewd person. Despite Ning Cheng's words, he still asked calmly, so, if such a thing happened in the Grand Essence Realm, Tao Lord Ning would rather let the Grand Essence Realm perish than do such a thing to save a few people? Ning Cheng laughed, but there was no smile on his face. Instead, his tone carried a hint of disdain. If the people of the entire realm didn't even have the courage to fight to the death and needed the kindest people to nail their souls and primordial spirits to the sealing pillars to save them, then this realm wouldn't even need to exist. What's the difference between living and dying in a realm with no kind souls? In life, there are things that one shouldn't do. Xing Wen Realm Lord used countless innocent and kind-hearted young girls to save a world. Didn't he feel any shame in dragging out his life? If such a thing happened in the Grand Essence Realm, then all the cultivators of the realm would fight and die. Good. Yaohua Dao Court's Dao Lord Bai Ling stood up and applauded. Behind Dao Lord Bai Ling, a middle-aged Confucian scholar also stood up and clapped. Dao Lord Ning's words are enlightening. If we hide behind a group of kind-hearted women, then no matter how great our achievements in the future, I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to make any further progress. At this point, the middle-aged Confucian scholar deliberately walked out and bowed to Ning Cheng. Thank you, Dao Lord Ning, for enlightening me with your words. Otherwise, my heart-dispelling water would only be at Dao integration in the future. Only then did Ning Cheng know who the person who had come forward was. He quickly cupped his fists and said, "It turns out to be Dao Lord Jia of the Taixien Dao Court. I just saw human nature. Dao Friend Jia's vision is far better than mine." Ning Cheng cupped his fists in return. What he said was the truth. He did not want to do these things because of his temperament. He did not think that it was related to his great Dao. Jia Xinshui was actually able to tell that once he did something like this, it would affect his Dao in the future. Jia Xinshui said seriously, "Dao Lord Ning's words are wrong. I'm not as good as Dao Lord Ning. I'm still thinking about my own improvement and the great Dao." Dao Lord Ning himself, from the depths of his heart, is unwilling to do this. From this, you can see that Dao Lord Ning's Dao far surpasses mine. Before Ning Cheng could answer again, a sneering voice arrived. So, if something like this happens in the Grand Essence Realm, Dao Lord Ning would rather die than surrender and would eventually die in battle? Ning Cheng looked at the person who spoke and spoke with an ice-cold tone, "Eo Beijiang, I'll settle your account with you slowly. There's no need to rush. But I can answer your question. If something like this happens in the Grand Essence Realm, as a Dao Lord of this realm, might not be the last to die. But I will definitely fight to the end. Dao Lord Ning is a man of character." I, Gu Sisi, agree with Dao Lord Ning's words. Another strong man with a short beard stood up. Seeing Ning Cheng look over, the man cupped his fists again and said, "I'm Gu Sisi, the sect master of the vast space Dao sect. Greetings, Dao Lord Ning. I believe everyone understands what Dao Lord Ning means. We can fight against the demonic creatures. Even if we can't defeat them in the end, we can retreat as the last person. As cultivators, there are things that we should do and things that we shouldn't do." Ning Cheng quickly returned the greeting, "So it's Dao Friend Gu. Nice to meet you." Ning Cheng had never heard of Gu Sisi, but he had heard of the vast space Dao sect. It was one of the 3 major Dao sects in the Grand Change Realm, second only to the 5 major Dao courts. Seeing more and more people getting involved with Ning Cheng, although Yin Xingwen's expression remained the same, he felt a little awkward in his heart. Ever since he took control of the Luiying Dao court, his status as a realm lord had greatly improved. However, he still couldn't control the 3 major Dao sects and the 5 major Dao courts, not to mention the 7 shrines that had always been outside the Grand Change realm. So, Dao Lord Ning means that the cultivators of the Grand Change realm should fight with their lives to suppress the demonic creatures in the Grand Change realm's underground abyss? Of course, I believe that after the demonic creatures occupy the Grand Change realm, Dao Lord Ning will definitely open the Grand Essence realm and allow the cultivators of the Grand Change realm to live there. However, I'm the realm lord of the Grand Change realm. If I can protect the Grand Change realm, I'm willing to fight to the last person, like Dao Lord Ning said. Yin Xingwen spoke in a tone that was neither arrogant nor humble. Everyone could hear the meaning behind his words. That is, Ning Cheng's words didn't hurt his back. Ning Cheng, Dao Lord Grand Essence, didn't care about the life and death of the Grand Change realm. As for using the word live there, it was to tell the powerhouses of the Grand Change realm that the Grand Change realm no longer existed. Even if they survived and lived in the Grand Essence realm, they would still be living under someone else's roof. Ning Cheng naturally understood the meaning behind Yin Xingwen's words. He spoke up in a cold tone, Realm Lord Xingwen, since I'm here, I'm naturally willing to contribute my strength to the Grand Change realm. I hope that Realm Lord Xingwen doesn't care about others and use some small means to divide everyone's strength. Yin Xingwen's face stiffened, and the anger in his heart started to burn. Ning Cheng, you're a Dao Lord, but this is my Grand Change realm's territory. I'm also the Grand Change realm's realm lord, yet you speak so bluntly. My words are meant to sow discord, while your words are righteous and dignified. Ning Cheng didn't care about Yin Xingwen's expression at all and continued, countless Dao friends in the Grand Change realm, as well as countless Dao friends from other places, are fighting against the demonic creatures one after another. Although it's for the demonic crystals, it also has the desire to destroy the demonic creatures and restore peace to the Grand Change realm. If we use the kind-hearted girls as pure bodies to suppress the demonic creatures, wouldn't it hurt everyone's hearts once everyone learns about it? Therefore, I hope that the first step is to release all the captured girls as pure bodies. I agree with Dao Lord Ning's words. Jie Xinxue was the first to stand up. Then, Yaohua Dao Court's Dao Lord Bai Ling and many other powerhouses expressed their agreement with Ning Cheng's proposal. Yin Xingwen knew that even if everyone disagreed with Ning Cheng's opinion, Ning Cheng had killed Su Xinghe, and they couldn't use their pure bodies to suppress the seal. He also nodded and said, I also agree with this point. I'll let someone handle this matter. Dao friend Ning, you don't have to worry about it. Ning Cheng said in a deep voice, we have to handle this matter ourselves. Once it's done, I'll do my best to help the Grand Change realm suppress the demonic creatures. Even if I have to mobilize the Grand Essence realm's Dao Court army, I won't back down. The reason why Ning Cheng wanted to do it himself was that he worried that Su Xinghe would capture her again. The pure body suppression also required the purest and kindest soul as the array heart. Only could meet this condition. Since Su Xinghe proposed to use 18,000 kind-hearted girls as pure bodies to suppress the demonic creatures, then he must have found the girl as the array heart. This was the reason why he felt the most anxious. If it really was then even if she hadn't been refined into a seal, once the demonic creatures were suppressed, he would go to Yin Xingwen for some interest. He would even take out the matter of invading the Grand Essence realm to settle accounts. Yin Xingwen stood up with a calm expression, in that case, I'll accompany Dao Lord Ning. Since Dao Lord Ning is so confident, my Grand Change realm still has a lot to rely on Dao Lord Ning. Ning Cheng didn't care about Yin Xingwen's words at all and said without any politeness, lead the way. If he hadn't fought with Ning Cheng, Feng Xian would have already jumped out to target Ning Cheng. But now, he only hoped that he wouldn't have anything to do with Ning Cheng. In his eyes, Ning Cheng was a nightmare. Even without Ping Cauldron Great Emperor, this nightmare was already so terrifying. Now that he had Ping Cauldron Great Emperor's help, he didn't dare to touch this nightmare. At this time, he only hoped to end things in the Great Change Realm as soon as possible and use Yin Xingwen to go to heavens beyond to find the trace of his Feng clan's ancient bloodline. Yin Xingwen didn't argue with Ning Cheng. He didn't have the means to deal with Ning Cheng, and he couldn't deal with him now. No matter from which point of view, as a realm lord, he didn't want the demonic creatures to occupy the Great Change Realm. Since Ning Cheng said that he would help in front of so many powerhouses, he definitely wouldn't go back on his words. Since he could borrow power, why wouldn't he, Yin Xingwen, use it? Under Yin Xingwen's lead, everyone quickly passed through several seals and restrictions and came to a larger hall. The 18,000 girls hadn't been gathered yet, but there were thousands of girls imprisoned in the hall. These girls were imprisoned, and once 18,000 people were gathered, they would immediately start refining the ceiling pillars. Slap. A slap was heard, followed by an angry voice. So what if your father is the sect master of the Qing Nian divine sect? See, the woman next to this emperor is one of the top 3 in the 5 realms pill competition. She's the Dao companion of Ning Cheng, the Dao lord of the Tai Su Dao court. Isn't she still following behind this emperor to serve him? Let me tell you, as long as you enter here, you have to think of yourself as a ceiling pillar. For the sake of the Great Change Realm, this emperor touching you is giving you face. The angry voice suddenly stopped, because he saw many people coming in. When he saw Yin Xingwen walking in front of him, he was shocked and hurriedly put down his perverted hands that were about to touch the young girl. He walked over quickly and bowed. Seal Hall Deacon Chu Rui greets the Realm Lord, Dao Lords, Sect Masters, and Seniors. When the girls saw so many powerhouses coming in, their faces showed sadness. They all thought that the refining of the ceiling pillars had begun. They were innocent, but because of their kindness, they were caught and suppressed here. Chapter 1233. Is the woman next to you Dao Lord Ning's Dao companion? Jade Clear Dao Court's Dao Unification Holy Emperor Wei Xinghao suddenly asked. He didn't have any good intentions in asking this question. Ning Cheng's imposing manner was very big, and he even spoke a lot of high-sounding words, while carrying a noble aura. Now that his Dao companion followed a little deacon, how would Ning Cheng deal with such a loss of face? Yes. Chu Rui didn't know Ning Cheng, and even if he knew him, he wouldn't dare to look at these big shots who came in. At most, he would just glance at them and bow to them. Shan Yaotzen opened her mouth wide and looked at Ning Cheng standing next to Yin Xingwen in shock. She didn't expect Ning Cheng to appear here. Just a moment later, her face turned pale. Ning Cheng spoke in a sarcastic tone, "It's not easy to become a pure body suppression girl. I was wondering how senior apprentice sister Shan could become a pure body suppression girl. It turns out that she's a deacon's wife. But why didn't I think that senior apprentice sister Shan would become my Dao companion? With a Dao companion like senior apprentice sister Shan, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night." Shan Yaotzen didn't expect to meet Ning Cheng under such circumstances. In fact, she felt a little uneasy when she pretended to be Ning Cheng's Dao companion. It's just that Ning Cheng had a good reputation in the Great Change Realm. After she pretended to be Ning Cheng's Dao companion, she not only gained too much glory but also a lot of convenience. If it weren't for the eruption of the underground demonic creatures, she would still be living a good life. Although many people didn't like Ning Cheng, no one dared to touch her, who was suspected to be Ning Cheng's Dao companion. When the underground demonic creatures erupted, the Great Change Realm looked for a pure body girl to suppress the demonic creatures. Naturally, she was brought here. Unfortunately, she didn't fit in with kindness at all. She wasn't qualified to be the ceiling pillar to suppress the demonic creatures, but she had a good appearance. So, in order to survive, she could only become Chu Rui's follower. "You're Ning, Dao Lord Ning." If Chu Rui still didn't know that the man with the ordinary spear in front of him was Ning Cheng, then he would be a pig. Even if these girls were sent here for pure suppression, they still sacrificed themselves for the sake of the Grand Change Realm. "You're just a deacon, yet you dare to touch me here. Living is just a waste of air." As Ning Cheng spoke, he sent out a Dao charm handprint. No one stopped Ning Cheng. Since Chu Rui was able to become a deacon in this place, then naturally he had a strong background. Those who had enmity with Ning Cheng, of course, hoped that Ning Cheng would have more and more enemies, while those who did not have enmity with Ning Cheng could not bear to see such a shameless person like Chu Rui. Chu Rui, a Tao actualization divine emperor, couldn't even beg for mercy and was slapped into nothingness. Shan Yaozhen, who stood next to Chu Rui, froze. She had also heard some news about Ning Cheng returning to the Grand Essence realm. She had even heard that he had become Tao Lord Grand Essence and defeated the Grand Change Tao Court's army. But she never expected that Ning Cheng would dare to come to the Grand Change realm. Not only did he dare to come here, but he also dared to kill Deacon Chu Rui of the Sealing Hall in front of the Celestial Literature World Master. Even if he did not consider these things, when did Ning Cheng possess such strength? She clearly remembered that when she first met Ning Cheng's cultivation was far inferior to hers. Compared to Ning Cheng, she was an unreachable existence. But how many years had passed since then? Ning Cheng was already an unreachable existence for her. The matters of the world were nothing more than this. The imprisoned girls on seeing Ning Cheng kill Chu Rui directly felt a little sluggish. What was going on? Chu Rui was a king-like existence in this place, but now he was slapped into nothingness. Innocent sisters, Su Xinghe has no sense of shame. He used the kindness of human nature to suppress others. It's despicable. After Tao Lord Grand Essence Ning Cheng learned about this, he killed Su Xinghe to give justice to all sisters. Now, all sisters are free. Bai Ling, as a female Tao Lord, was the first to stand up and explain the situation. Yin Xingwen's expression turned a little ugly. He should have said those words instead. Bai Ling obviously saw that he wanted to speak, so she spoke ahead of him. From the looks of it, Bai Ling had a lot of opinions about him. Don't look at just a few thousand women. Once all of them were released, it would damage his reputation a lot. Thinking of this, Yin Xingwen no longer cared about shame and spoke up, Tao Lord Bai Ling is right. After learning about this, I felt very sad. As the Great Change Realm's Realm Master, I have a direct responsibility. I trusted Su Xinghe too much. If I knew that he had captured all my junior apprentice sisters to suppress others, I would have let all my junior apprentice sisters go free even if I had to sacrifice an array Tao Master. Fortunately, Tao Lord Ning got the news in time and came to tell me. But it wasn't too late. After killing Su Xinghe, we immediately rushed over. Yin Xingwen's words were extremely vague. He didn't say how Su Xinghe deceived him. Moreover, his tone implied that after listening to Ning Cheng's words, he wanted to destroy Su Xinghe together with Ning Cheng. However, none of the imprisoned girls cared about this. No matter how kind they were, they wouldn't be willing to be refined into a suppressive pillar. At this time, everyone only felt joy and gratitude. Because of their kindness, few of them hated the person who captured them. For them, they were more grateful to the person who rescued them. Although Yin Xingwen pulled some points for himself, it couldn't change their minds. The reason why they were rescued was mainly because of Tao Lord Tai Su Ning Cheng. Looking at the thousands of rescued girls, Ning Cheng asked with a gloomy expression, "Is everyone here? Why don't I see the pure body girl refining the array heart?" Ning Cheng's words were completely intentional. Shan Yaozhen, who didn't know whether to advance or retreat, quickly spoke up, "There is a sealed space in the innermost part. I heard that the sealed space is used as an array heart." Without waiting for Shan Yaozhen to finish, Ning Cheng had already stepped into the hall. Sure enough, after crossing the hall, Ning Cheng saw an ingenious seal restriction. Even Ning Cheng couldn't help but admire this Su Xinghe. Even he didn't notice this restriction the first time. Standing at the entrance of the restriction, Ning Cheng didn't wait for Yin Xingwen to open the restriction and directly raised his hand to tear it open. Ning Cheng directly tore open a powerful seal restriction with his bare hands. A young girl in a light green dress with her hair draped over her shoulders was restrained on a lotus platform. "An E?" Ning Cheng blurted out. After an E was selected by Lan Yin Yu to enter the Clear Heart 3-Star Academy, he hadn't seen an E again. Later, in the Eternal Night domain, he saw An Yi's statue, and then took An Yi's statue with him. It was only when he returned to Graceful Star mainland and found traces of An Yi tearing through space in the celestial moon pill gate that he guessed that An Yi's cultivation had been sealed or that she had reincarnated. Even so, Ning Qing didn't expect to see An Yi many years later in the Grand Change Realm, which had nothing to do with him. Even if his thoughts raced, he couldn't imagine that An Yi would appear in this place. Dao Lord Ning, do you know this woman? Yin Xingwen suspected that Ning Qing deliberately said that he knew this woman. That way, he could use it as an excuse to find trouble with him. Although he didn't fear Ning Qing, he didn't want to fall into such a trap. Ning Qing looked at Yin Xingwen coldly and said, Xingwen Realm Master, An Yi is one of my most important friends. If anything happens to her, I won't forget where she died. An Yi was the first person to go through life and death with Ning Qing after he came to Graceful Star mainland alone. Even the secret of his mysterious yellow bead, An Yi was the first person to know about it. She and An Yi had gone through many trials and tribulations together, and it was a friendship that could never be forgotten. No matter who brought An Yi here, he wouldn't let it go. Yin Xingwen's face sank, but Jie Xinshui could tell that Ning Qing really knew An Yi. He quickly said, in that case, let's wait for Dao Lord Ning outside. After Dao Lord Ning talks to his friends, we can discuss how to deal with the underground demonic creatures. At this time, no one really wanted to start internal strife. The underground demonic creatures were so terrifying that everyone needed to work together the most. Yin Xingwen didn't refute Jie Xinshui's words, and the others naturally didn't want to oppose it. They all left the seal and gave the space to Ning Qing. Ning Qing suppressed the anger in his heart and raised his hand to form a few hand seals with his Dao charm. The shackles on An Yi's body cracked open. An Yi's Dao charm finally became clear, and Ning Qing also caught a glimpse of her cultivation. She had reached the full circle Dao transformation realm. After a few breaths, An Yi opened her eyes in a daze. Then, her eyes filled with surprise, Big Brother Ning, it's really you. Did you come to save me again? An Yi, why are you here? Ning Qing felt that something was wrong with An Yi, but he couldn't tell what exactly was wrong. While talking, Ning Qing raised his hand and took out a few medicinal pills and handed them to An Yi. An Yi didn't even look at them before putting Ning Qing's medicinal pills into her mouth. Ning Qing was the person she trusted the most, no one else. Big Brother Ning, were you the one who lifted the seal on my statue? I went to that place later, but I couldn't find Big Brother Ning. After that, I wandered around in the void and heard the news of a pill sage named Ning Qing taking the top 3 in the 5 realms pill competition. I didn't know if it was Big Brother Ning, so I found a way to come to the Great Change Realm. As An Yi spoke until here, Ning Qing knew that An Yi must have missed out a lot of information. He raised his hand to stop An Yi from continuing. An Yi, wait, look at the statue. Ning Qing always felt that An Yi's statue had a trace of spirituality. With his current knowledge and cultivation, he could vaguely see that this statue had a trace of An Yi's soul sealed within it. Ning Qing had carefully kept this statue in the mysterious yellow bead. Perhaps it was because he had taken away An Yi's statue that An Yi's seal was unlocked. Big Brother Ning, hurry up and put away the statue. An Yi saw the statue and immediately cried out in panic. Ning Qing didn't know what An Yi meant, but he believed in An Yi's words. As soon as An Yi said those words, he immediately put away An Yi's statue. Nevertheless, it was still too late. A dull tremor erupted in the void, and even with Ning Chang's cultivation, he couldn't help but shiver subconsciously. Before he could react, a majestic aura that blotted out the sky and covered the earth came crashing down. This terrifying imposing aura directly enveloped him, giving him a feeling of irresistibility. Chapter 1234. Not good. Ning Qing raised his hand and grabbed An Yi beside him. The creation divine spear exploded with thousands of spear flares and killing intent. In the face of this terrifying aura, any law or Dao rune aura had no meaning. All nomological power or one's own Dao rune power were like floating clouds in the face of this aura. The creation divine spear relied entirely on its own spear intent. Under Ning Cheng's guidance, it swept away almost all the killing aura in this space and blasted towards this majestic pressure. Two terrifying forces blasted together. Boom boom boom. Not to mention the sealed hall, even the surrounding buildings were turned into nothingness under this terrifying momentum. Void cracks appeared in the space, and the majestic aura that seemed to be pressing down from the sky was blocked by Ning Cheng's creation divine spear. A vortex space that looked like a spider web appeared, and endless terrifying aura overflowed from this spider web. Anyone within the range of this aura, even a Dao integration expert, would be blasted back by the terrifying power. The weaker ones even spat out blood and flew backward. The countless cultivators in the encampment fell into an uproar. The black hole in the void and the terrifying suppressive killing intent made everyone feel uneasy. As for the countless cave abodes that had turned into flying ashes, no one cared about them. Everyone hurriedly retreated, wanting to escape from the terrifying vortex beneath the spiderweb-like void cracks. Ning Cheng bore the brunt of the attack and immediately spat out several mouthfuls of blood. He flew backward, and the bones in his body cracked. His Dao rune laws also became chaotic at this moment, and he couldn't condense them at all. Before he landed on the ground, Ning Cheng swallowed a drop of quintessential essence of the universe. His injuries were very serious. Under this majestic aura that ignored laws and Dao runes, his Dao rune laws had some cracks. If he used elixirs, he was afraid that it would take him a few months to recover. What was this place? He was in the middle of a group of tigers. Once he lost his strength, he would be like a lamb waiting to die. Under the quintessential essence of the universe, Ning Cheng's Dao rune injuries quickly healed. As for the physical injuries, they were nothing to Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng, who landed on the ground again, stared blankly at the space above the ruins. The spider web-like void crack seemed to be shrinking, but the terrifying aura was still surging. Moreover, the aura was getting more and more majestic. Obviously, the next wave of attacks would come. Ning Cheng was shocked. What cultivation level was this? Third step. Feng Huangmei was also a third-step world creation realm expert, but he was sure that Feng Huangmei didn't even have 1/10 of this move. Moreover, the other party was separated by an endless void. If the other party stood in front of him, Ning Cheng might not even be able to stand up to him. He vaguely heard an angry snort from the end of the void. Then, the majestic aura condensed again in the void above his head. At this moment, not only Ning Cheng, but all you, Ning Cheng, but also all. What kind of cultivation did he have to be able to unleash such a terrifying attack? Everyone stared in horror at the spiderweb cracks in the void that had yet to condense. Under the lock of such a terrifying aura, no one dared to continue running away. They were all waiting for the majestic and boundless aura to descend upon them once again. And they, on an uninhabited planet infinitely far from the Great Change Realm, a young man stared at the majestic aura fluctuations not far away in shock and murmured, "So strong. What kind of strength is this? To be able to unleash such a powerful attack across countless positional planes?" On the young man's back, there was a sheathless broadsword on his back. "Brother Yi, I'm afraid we have to leave quickly. Looking at this terrifying aura, the next attack will probably turn this planet into nothingness." The one who spoke was a slightly chubby middle-aged man. His skin was very white, and the Dao charm around him had completely integrated with the void. Apparently, he was also a peerless powerhouse. Behind this slightly chubby middle-aged man was a young woman. She also frowned, apparently still having some lingering fear from the previous wave of attacks. "That person is very strong." After a long while, the young woman spoke slowly. The young man and the chubby middle-aged man both understood what the young woman meant. She wasn't talking about the person who launched the attack, but the person who blocked it. The previous terrifying attack was obviously meant to kill someone, but it didn't achieve the desired effect. Otherwise, he wouldn't have condensed his aura for a second time. That majestic attack actually didn't kill a single person. Clearly, that person was very strong. The young man with the broadsword looked up at the vast void and felt the increasingly majestic oppressive aura. He then said in a low voice, "Why should I leave? This is obviously an almighty from another positional plane. He wants to use his boundless great divine power to cross the endless void to deal with people. Does he want to go over my head? I won't let him have his way. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have the power to cross planes." Just as the young man with the broadsword finished speaking, another majestic aura that was just as terrifying as the previous one came crashing down. This aura directly ignored the void planet they were on. It seemed like it wanted to crush this void planet into nothingness. At this moment, even if the few of them wanted to leave, they couldn't. The young man suddenly flew up, and the broadsword on his back had already slashed out. A purple light that was like peerless lightning directly turned the entire void into a purple saber light. There were no laws, no Tao charm, no divine power, only a saber light. Bang! A dull sound exploded in the endless void. Countless broken planets were turned into nothingness under this majestic aura. After the purple light, the boundless majestic aura disappeared without a trace. The void returned to its original state, as though nothing had happened. Boom! The young man landed on the void planet. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and the uninhabited planet under his feet shattered inch by inch. "Brother Yi, are you okay?" The slightly chubby middle-aged man hurriedly flew over and asked worriedly. The young man's broadsword once again returned to its simple appearance. He raised his hand and threw it, and the broadsword hung naturally on his back. "I'm fine. This guy won't dare to come a third time. This person is very strong. I'm not his match now," the young man said solemnly as he looked at the disappearing aura in the void. The young woman also flew over and said with a cold tone, "I wonder which bastard actually attracted such a terrifying powerhouse to cross planes to attack." The young man's gaze pierced through the void. After a while, he said, "The person who attracted the attack is also very strong. Even if I didn't help him block this attack probably wouldn't have been able to do anything to him. However, there will definitely be a third wave of attack. Let's not care about this. Let's go. Those old fellows might have already found the place." Outside the void that passed through countless planes, in a misty realm, a 9-petaled green lotus platform floated above a golden lotus pond. The 9-petaled lotus platform was clearly missing 3 petals. On this lotus platform that was missing 3 petals sat a stunningly beautiful woman. However, her face was covered in frost. Her tender, white, lotus-like wrist was still placed in the void. Good, good. I didn't expect that after not going out for so many years, there would actually be 2 people who can stop me. I want to see who dares to stop me, Xing Shi. After I left, how many amazing talents have appeared in this void. The stunningly beautiful woman slowly put down her lotus-like arm, and her voice carried a trace of sharp killing intent. What's going on? Outside the Great Change Realm's underground abyss, everyone looked at the void in amazement. That majestic attack did not come down and dissipated. Ning Qing frowned slightly. He gripped the good fortune divine spear tightly and was ready to go. As soon as the attack fell, he would shoot it with all his strength. Moreover, he also guessed why the attack came down. It should have something to do with an Yi statue. Most likely, it was the statue's positioning. Because of the statue's positioning, the attack could accurately break through countless planes and fall on his head. The statue had a positioning system. As long as he blocked this kind of attack from the void several times in a row, the attack from the void would lose its positioning and no longer pose any threat to him. Don't worry. Since the first attack didn't take me away, and the second attack didn't come down, they won't be able to find my position in a short time. An Yi, who stood next to Ning Cheng, also breathed a sigh of relief and whispered. Well, let's talk about this later. Let's go and take a look. Ning Cheng looked at the ruins of the cave abodes and the countless bewildered human cultivators. He knew that he had to stabilize everyone at this time. Otherwise, the underground demonic creatures would take advantage of the situation and rush out, which would be a fatal blow. Dao Lord Ning, what happened just now? How did a peerless expert come here to tear through the Great Change Realm's domain defense array and attack this place? Yin Xingwen was the first to ask. His expression was a little ugly. That attack just now was so terrifying that even he and Ning Cheng could not block it without suffering any injuries. He naturally did not know that Ning Cheng was not only injured, but his injuries were not light. Ning Cheng had only used a drop of quintessential essence of the universe. Ning Cheng smiled. I'm not very sure. Fortunately, it's all right now. Let's discuss how to deal with the underground demonic creatures. Bai Ling also asked in doubt, why did the second attack gather a more majestic aura in the void, but it didn't come down? Ning Cheng had a good impression of Bai Ling, the Yaohua Dao Court's Dao Lord. Since she took the initiative to ask, Ning Cheng did not hide it. As far as I know, the second attack should have angered an expert in our side of the space. That expert took action midway and blocked the second attack. There was one more thing that Ning Cheng did not say. That is, the second attack was blocked midway. The guy who wanted to capture an Yi could not find an Yi's specific location, so there was no third attack. Jie Xinxue stood up and said, Dao Lord Ning is right. At this time, we should deal with those demonic creatures first. Once the demonic creatures in the underground abyss take the opportunity to attack, I'm afraid. Before Jie Xinxue could finish speaking, the entire sky darkened. Endless underground demonic creatures swarmed out as if they had calculated the right time. Chapter 1235. Countless demonic creatures began to attack the defense array. The defense array was not very strong to begin with, and with just one attack, it began to crack. Everyone looked at Ning Cheng, even Yin Xingwen looked at Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng knew why everyone was looking at him, it was because his battle record was just too impressive. With the newly formed Dao Court army of the Grand Essence Realm, he defeated the powerful attacks of the Grand Change Realm several times. At this time, facing the powerful attack of the demon, everyone could not help but place their hopes on him. Dao Lords, please organize the Dao Court army to stop the demonic creatures from attacking the defensive formation. Xingwen Realm Master, those rogue cultivators and some sect disciples still need you to lead them to assist the Dao Court army. Ning Cheng knew that it would be a waste of time to arrange the trap and kill array at this time. Ao Beijiang sneered. I thought Dao Lord Ning had some good ideas. At the end of the day, it's still the same as our previous idea. In fact, it might even be worse. However, not everyone had a grudge against Ning Cheng like Ao Beijiang. Dao Lord Bai Ling of the Yaohua Dao Court and Dao Lord Jie Xinxue of the Taixien Dao Court did not hesitate at all. They began to command their respective Dao Court armies to counterattack the demonic creatures. Although Ao Beijiang was a Dao integration expert, he was nothing in the eyes of the Dao Lords. At this moment, the demonic creatures in the underground abyss had erupted, and the Grand Change Realm was in danger of survival. Even though there were conflicts between the various Dao Courts, no one played any tricks. Even the Cloudlight Dao Court and the Jade Clear Dao Court, who had been taught a lesson by Ning Cheng, commanded their respective Dao Court armies to press forward. Yin Xingwen went straight to the point. As the master of a realm, he cared about the safety of the Great Change Realm more than anyone else. Although they knew that Ning Cheng's method was only this, but at this moment, other than using Ning Cheng's method of blocking, they really did not have any other means. Initially, Ning Cheng still had some doubts. With so many powerhouses in the Great Change Realm, no matter how many demonic creatures there were, it shouldn't be impossible to stop them. But now that the endless demonic creatures and the numerous cultivators were fighting against each other, Ning Cheng could see it clearly. The demonic creatures also had top-notch experts, and there were more than a dozen of them. Not only that, these demonic creatures also knew how to use trap and kill arrays. However, the trap and kill array formed by demonic creatures did not use array flags, but countless demonic creatures piled up together. Even a top-notch powerhouse like Yin Xingwen could only defend himself under the siege of a few top-notch powerhouses and the endless confinement killing formation. He could kill countless monsters with a casual strike, but there was no end to the number of monsters. If he killed one, another pair would appear. No matter how many he killed, it would just be a waste of energy. Even though they had temporarily stopped the demonic creature's attack, everyone knew that if they did not come up with a countermeasure in time, the demonic creatures would sooner or later break through the Dao Court's defensive line. There was no end to the demonic creatures. Although the Dao Court's army was large, there was a limit to their numbers. Once the defense line of the Dao Court army was breached, the demonic creatures would flood the entire Great Change Realm, and it would only be a matter of time before the Great Change Realm was occupied by the demonic creatures. Ning Qing suddenly called out in a clear voice, "All Array Dao Masters follow behind me to stabilize the trap and kill Array." As he spoke, Ning Qing rushed to a huge gap created by the demonic creatures. He then raised his hand and brought out a pale white stone arch bridge, the first bridge of coping. As soon as the first bridge of coping came out, the raging sea of blood and the chilly wind swept away all the monsters that rushed over. The array flags in Ning Cheng's hand didn't stop at all. Instead, he threw them out one after another. In front of the first bridge of coping, a new trap and kill array appeared. Although this new trap and kill array only trapped a corner of the vast battlefield, it grew stronger and stronger under the obstruction of the first bridge of coping. The bridge of coping devoured countless demonic creatures, and even if the demonic creatures rushed over to replenish them, it would be too late. As a result, the demonic creatures on this side instantly became sparse. In just a dozen breaths, Ning Cheng's trap and kill array formed a shadow. Those powerful demonic creatures immediately discovered the situation here, and more powerful demonic creatures swarmed over. Apparently, they didn't want Ning Cheng to set up a new trap and kill array. Yin Xingwen and the others naturally weren't idiots. Therefore, when Ning Cheng made his move, all the powerhouses felt pleasantly surprised. Ning Cheng's attainments in the Tao of arrays clearly surpassed Su Xinghe's. Not to mention surpassing Su Xinghe, even several Su Xinghe wouldn't be as good as Ning Cheng. Looking at the trap and kill array arranged under Su Xinghe's leadership, and then looking at the corner of the trap and kill array that Ning Cheng had just set up, they couldn't compare at all. Previously, Su Xinghe's trap and kill array barely blocked the demonic creatures from rushing out with the help of the Dao Court's army. But now, Ning Cheng's trap and kill array didn't have the help of the Dao Court's army at all. Instead, it relied on the first bridge of coping's spirit technique. Even so, the demonic creatures that swarmed over died under the trap and kill array. Moreover, Ning Cheng had only set up a corner of the trap and kill array. Once Ning Cheng set up the entire trap and kill array, these demonic creatures would be nothing but farts. No matter how strong they would still be driven into the underground abyss. Moreover, such a colossal trap and kill array only needed a corner to work. Those who weren't proficient in the Tao of arrays wouldn't have even heard of such a thing. Didn't the trap and kill array need to be fully set up before it could work? Yin Xingwen immediately understood Ning Cheng's value. He didn't hesitate to issue an order. Not only did he transfer the entire Luiying Dao Court's army to protect Ning Cheng, but he also ordered all the array Dao Grandmasters to follow Ning Cheng's orders. Seeing Ning Cheng's terrifying attainments in the Tao of arrays, Yin Xingwen felt a faint sense of fear in his heart. He felt that his previous loss to Ning Cheng wasn't an accident. If he went to the Grand Essence Realm again, he would definitely lose again. More and more demonic creatures swarmed towards Ning Cheng, and their levels also grew higher and higher. Even with the help of the Dao Court's army, Ning Cheng started to feel strained. He didn't hesitate to bring out the second Looking Village Bridge and the third Forgetting River Bridge. The three arched bridges of the seven bridges spirit technique formed a line, and endless Dao charm killing intent swept out. No matter how many demonic creatures swarmed over, they couldn't escape the strangulation of these three bridges. Ning Cheng's movements also grew faster and faster, and the range of the trap and kill array he set up also grew larger and larger. The demonic creatures were strangled in droves, and a large number of demon crystals were swept away by the three stone-arched bridges. As for the array Dao Grandmasters who followed behind Ning Cheng, they only needed to reinforce the trap and kill array that Ning Cheng had set up. With the protection of these trap and kill arrays, the pressure on the Dao Court's army protecting the trap and kill array was greatly reduced. As the demonic creatures continued to rush towards Ning Cheng, the Dao Court's army and the other powerhouses also continued to rush over. In just half an incense stick worth of time, Ning Cheng's position became the center of the entire battlefield. Normally, these demonic creatures would have retreated a long time ago. But now, they didn't dare to retreat. They didn't know what was going on in the Grand Change realm, but an array Dao expert like Ning Cheng had suddenly appeared. Once this trap and kill array took shape, the demonic creatures would find it hard to turn things around. A sharp voice came from among the endless demonic creatures, "Those who block my demonic Dao will die." Following this voice, a huge black figure that had completely solidified appeared above Ning Cheng's head, ignoring the space between them. The black hammer, which almost tore the entire Grand Change realm apart, came crashing down. The trap and kill array around Ning Cheng, which had yet to take shape, directly cracked under the Dao charm of the hammer. Not to mention that no one could stop this black figure at this moment. Even if they could, they would hesitate. Ning Cheng stopped moving, raised his hand, and rolled up a long yellow river that was hundreds of thousands of feet long. As soon as the yellow river appeared, it surrounded Ning Cheng's body, and the rolling yellow waves roared down. The Dao charm and killing intent of death continued to spread on the roaring yellow river, and the long river that was hundreds of thousands of feet long continued to grow. Boom! The black hammer that tore through the void and the surging yellow river collided, and the killing intent overflowed. The terrifying Dao charm and law aura turned all the demonic creatures and Dao court soldiers into nothingness. Ning Cheng stopped arranging the trap and kill array, and the killing intent of the Dao charm and killing intent around him grew stronger. A cyan stone arch bridge appeared under his feet, and the Yellow Springs Bridge's killing intent and Dao charm kept rolling over the bridge. The Yellow Springs was boundless, without any good or evil. Souls turned to dust, and spirits lost. This demonic creature was too powerful, and even he couldn't stop the deaths of those Dao court soldiers. If he wanted to continue arranging the trap and kill array, he had to kill this demonic creature first. The Good Fortune Divine Spear rolled up a sky full of killing intent and blasted towards the tall demonic creature, ignoring the distance between them. After the yellow roaring river blocked the terrifying giant hammer, it once again surrounded Ning Cheng's body. At this time, Ning Cheng stepped on the Yellow Springs Bridge, and the roaring yellow river rolled around him. Holding the Good Fortune Divine Spear, he rushed towards the tall demonic creature like a god. Boom! The Good Fortune Divine Spear and the Dao charm of the demonic creature's giant hammer clashed once again, and the endless killing intent that filled the sky became even more unobstructed this time. Unlike last time, Ning Cheng's domain blocked the killing intent that rushed towards the Dao court's army. Ning Cheng blocked the Dao charm killing intent that rushed towards the Dao court's army, but no one stopped the Dao charm killing intent that rushed towards the demonic creature. This endless killing intent directly blasted towards the densely packed underground demonic creatures, and sharp and tearing cries filled the entire battlefield at this moment. In the space affected by this terrifying Dao charm killing intent, not a single demonic creature could survive. At this moment, even more demonic creatures didn't have time to rush in. The place where the killing intent spread out actually formed a vacuum. The tall giant demonic creature let out another sharp cry, and more demonic creatures swarmed in. The fourth Yellow Springs Bridge under Ning Cheng's feet didn't move at all. Instead, he raised his hand and sent out a silent law-breaking spirit technique. The huge demonic creature that rushed towards Ning Cheng again suddenly felt the aura of laws around it weaken. The demonic creature instantly understood what was going on. This was a law-breaking spirit technique. Unexpectedly, someone here had comprehended such a powerful law-breaking spirit technique. His eyes filled with horror. Once the law-breaking spirit technique trapped him, no matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be the opponent of this person in front of him. Retreat. After the giant demonic creature realized that Ning Cheng wasn't just an expert in array Dao but could also use an law-breaking spirit technique, he didn't hesitate to issue the order to retreat. Although he wasn't the master of the underground abyss, he had the right to issue such an order. Any one of the 10 underground demons could issue such an order. Chapter 1236. Ning Cheng did not care about the other party's retreat. The reason why he arranged the trap and kill array was because it was the simplest and most effective way to deal with this situation. Now that so many demons thought that he was a pushover, it would be strange if he didn't kill them. Time wheels blasted out, and the space around Ning Cheng, which had just been filled with demonic creatures, once again turned into a vacuum. The endless demonic creatures turned into nothingness in front of the time wheel. They didn't even have a chance to retreat. The giant demon, on seeing that Ning Cheng still had such a card up his sleeve, did not dare to stay any longer, and immediately retreated in a crazed manner. Ning Cheng did not give chase. If not for his lack of fire-attributed spirit techniques, his celestial river flame could have directly strangled all the low-level demonic beasts. So strong. Yin Xingwen did not take advantage of the victory to chase after Ning Cheng. Instead, he looked at Ning Cheng's moves with a gloomy heart. He also knew about Ning Cheng's 7 Bridges spirit technique. As for Ning Cheng's time wheel, he also didn't care about it. Although he also had such a large-scale killing method, Ning Cheng's law-breaking spirit technique was simply too strong. There were also a few people who knew about law-breaking spirit techniques like Ning Cheng, who could use a law-breaking spirit technique to scare away one of the 10 devils in the stable Grand Change realm. From this, it showed that Ning Cheng's understanding of the laws of heaven and earth far surpassed Yin Xingwen's. Ao Beijiang looked at Ning Cheng in disbelief. He naturally knew about the power of the 10 abyss devils. At least in a one-on-one fight, he would not dare to say that he would be able to blow away one of the 10 abyss devils. However, Ning Cheng, under the siege of countless devils, easily managed to do it. From this point, he could see that Ning Cheng's strength far surpassed his own. It was a good thing that Ning Cheng had some treasures on him, but unfortunately, he had missed the best time to snatch those treasures, allowing Ning Cheng to grow. Ning Cheng's growth rate had far exceeded his expectations. With Ning Cheng's strength, if he, Ao Beijiang, wanted to snatch treasures, it would truly be courting death. Ao Beijiang suddenly felt aggrieved. Back then, he had been struck back by a primordial chaos sacred emperor in the beyond of heaven and earth. Now that he was here, it was a primordial essence sacred emperor that he did not dare to move. At this moment, he felt that his Tao integration was a joke. A feeling of old age welled up in Ao Beijiang's heart. There was only a kind of desolation in his heart. He knew that his great Tao was probably going to end here, unless there was a miracle that could cheer him up again. He subconsciously glanced at Feng Xian in the distance. After Feng Xian came back from the Grand Essence realm for the second time, he had lost all his fighting spirit. He had even ridiculed Feng Xian. But now, how similar was he to Feng Xian? The underground demons retreated once again, and the soldiers of the Dao court heaved a sigh of relief. They began to sort out their gains and count their losses. Yin Xingwen forcibly hid the fear in his heart and arrived in front of Ning Cheng with the other powerhouses. Dao Lord Ning is indeed powerful. He used his own strength to repel countless demonic creatures. He's much stronger than us. Guruashi was a Dao integration expert, so she had no qualms about speaking. Ning Cheng showed a smile. I just happen to have a spiritual technique that can make these demonic beings feel dread. That demonic being that attacked me across space was really powerful. If it wasn't for my rather good understanding of the laws, I would have suffered a great loss. Dao Lord Ning's divine ability to break the laws truly is breathtaking. Even with the 7 Bridges divine ability, those devils weren't able to do anything to him. However, the demonic creature that Dao Lord Ning fought just now was indeed powerful. It was one of the 10 underground demons. Jie Xinxue stood up and explained. 10 underground demons? Ning Cheng asked in confusion. A fat monk took the initiative to answer, yes, the Great Change Abyss is a gathering place for demonic creatures. In the beginning, the underground abyss could provide trials for Great Change Realm cultivators, but no one cared. Later, the underground abyss erupted, and 10 powerful devils appeared. These 10 powerful devils rushed out of the underground abyss and occupied almost the entire Great Change Realm. Fortunately, there were countless powerhouses in the Great Change Realm at that time. These powerhouses joined forces to suppress the underground demons again, and the 10 underground demons were sealed. In order to suppress the underground demons forever, a highly respected senior in the Grand Change realm built a temple here to gather the power of will. As the wish power poured in, the temple condensed into a giant tree, which was the scorched tree. Later, the scorched tree replaced the temple to suppress the underground demons. However, for some reason, the scorched tree that suppressed the underground abyss suddenly began to wither and finally lost its vitality. Without the scorched tree, the later generations could not continue to set up the wish power temple. He could only use the method of sealing to seal the 10 underground devils. However, this thing couldn't last for long. Until today, the 10 underground demons finally erupted. Ningqing cupped his fists and asked, "May I ask who this master is?" The fat monk also cupped his fists. "Tao Lord Ning is too polite. I'm Yen Kong from the Thousand Buddha Sacred Tao sect." "So it's Master Yen Kong from the 3 major Tao sects." "I heard it from a friend, but it doesn't seem to be the case." "Why does Master Yen Kong know so much about it?" Ningqing asked in doubt. It wasn't the first time he heard about wish power. As long as it involved wish power, Ningqing would feel a little strange. Because the senior who built the temple was the Thousand Buddha Sacred Tao sect's Thousand Buddha Sacred Emperor. Yen Kong spoke with a respectful tone. "So that's how it is. Forgive me for being disrespectful." Ningqing quickly expressed his respect. Even the other people's views on Yen Kong had changed. Not many people in the Great Change realm knew about the Thousand Buddha Sacred Emperor building a temple to suppress the underground demons. "Tao Lord Ning, Master Yen Kong, now that the demons have retreated, what should we do? Do we continue to arrange the trap and kill array, or attack?" Yin Xingwen took the initiative to speak. He wasn't looking for a sense of existence, but worried that the underground demons would take over the Great Change realm. It wasn't easy to rope in Ningqing, a free array Tao Grandmaster, as a helper. If he didn't make use of him, once Ningqing left, it wouldn't be easy to invite Ningqing over again. As for forcing Ningqing to stay, he had this idea when Ningqing first arrived. But now, he had already let go of this idea. With Ningqing's strength, it meant that he had nothing to fear. If he wanted to force Ningqing to stay, he would have to be a pig with a brain. Mentioning Master Yen Kong in his words was to give face to the Thousand Buddha Sacred Emperor. However, Master Yen Kong shook his head. "It's not realistic to attack. Few demons have spiritual wisdom, and there are countless of them. It's impossible to kill them all. If we could kill all the demons, then we wouldn't have built a temple to suppress them." Ningqing also nodded. "Master Yen Kong is right. Let's continue to arrange this trap and kill array, and then assemble the trap and kill array. The first step is to drive the underground demons underground, and then we can discuss further." Yin Xingwen looked at Ningqing and hesitated for a long time. He seemed to want to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Previously, he thought that he had Ningqing in his grasp and didn't have to worry about anything. But now that Ningqing stood at the same height as him, or even higher than him, he finally had some scruples. But if he didn't give Ningqing a little trouble, he wouldn't be willing. Besides, this was the best time to ask about the World Mountain. If he missed this time, he wouldn't even be able to find an opening. Ningqing knew that he needed Yin Xingwen's support at this time. Don't look at Yin Xingwen's inability to control the entire Grand Change realm. Moreover, he wasn't afraid of Yin Xingwen's tricks at all. "Realm Master Yin Xingwen, if you have something to say, just say it. Right now, dealing with the underground demons is everyone's business. As for the accounts between you and me, we can slowly settle them after the underground demons are suppressed." Ningqing spoke out straightforwardly. Yin Xingwen didn't care that Ningqing wanted to settle accounts with him. It would have been strange if Ningqing just let it go. "Tao Lord Ning, I heard that you have a world mountain. If you take out the World Mountain to suppress the underground demons, Tao Lord Ning can take anything from my Grand Change realm." Yin Xingwen spoke out directly. Yin Xingwen's words indeed had the intention of drawing hatred to Ningqing. More importantly, Yin Xingwen wanted to verify if Ning Cheng had the World Mountain. In his opinion, with Ning Cheng's strength, if Ning Cheng really had the World Mountain, it would be impossible for him to obtain the World Mountain. He might as well say it directly and squeeze Ning Cheng. He knew that even if Ning Cheng had the World Mountain, he wouldn't take it out. Regardless of whether Ning Cheng took out the World Mountain or not, it would still cause some trouble for Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng sneered, "You're quite well informed. I do have a World Mountain." When Yin Xingwen said that Ning Cheng had the World Mountain, the rest of the people looked at Ning Cheng and Yin Xingwen in shock. What was the World Mountain? Even if Ning Cheng really had the World Mountain, what could the Grand Change Realm exchange for it? What shocked everyone even more was that Ning Cheng really admitted that he had the World Mountain. Before everyone could sober up from the shock, Ning Cheng raised his hand and grabbed a small model of the World Mountain and said, "I did get a model of the World Mountain, but who told you about such a trivial thing? Did they want to challenge you to a fight with me?" Yin Xingwen's expression turned a little ugly, and he glared at Ao Beijiang fiercely. As a friend, he didn't just help Ao Beijiang a little bit. He didn't expect Ao Beijiang to use this against him. If it weren't for the World Mountain, he wouldn't have attacked the Grand Essence Realm so easily. Sure enough, it was Ao Beijiang trying to sow discord, but Ning Cheng didn't point it out. Instead, he spoke up in a clear voice, "Dao friends, I'll start arranging the trap and kill array and compressing the trap and kill array. Everyone, please work together to help me drive these underground demonic creatures back. Speaking of which, these underground demonic creatures have something to do with me. If I hadn't broken the seal to save them, I'm afraid these underground demonic creatures wouldn't have rushed out." Master Yan Kong spoke up with a calm voice, "Dao Lord Ning, even if you didn't destroy the underground seal, those underground demonic creatures would still have erupted. It's just a matter of time. The only thing that can suppress the underground demonic creatures is the scorched tree. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened to that scorched tree, but it's suddenly withered." Ning Cheng asked in doubt, "Can't the scorched tree be polluted by the underground demonic creatures?" Yan Kong shook his head, "I don't know where you heard this news, but the scorched tree was initially irrigated by the power of hope. Once it grows up, it would turn into a treasure that can absorb demonic creatures. How could such a treasure be polluted by demonic creatures? The more demonic creatures there are, the more lush the scorched tree would grow." Listening to Yan Kong's words, Ning Cheng understood that the scorched tree must have withered because of an inside story. He wanted to see Shi Qianghua as soon as possible and then return to the Grand Essence Realm. He didn't want to get involved in the matters of the Grand Change Realm. Therefore, he simply said, "In that case, let's drive these demonic creatures away first. By the way, Master Yan Kong, is there any way to save the scorched tree?" Yan Kong shook his head and spoke after a long while, "Unless there's a mirage tree. But a mirage tree is extremely difficult to obtain. It's almost impossible." Chapter 1237. Ning Cheng immediately thought of the mirage tree and his mysterious yellow bead, but he did not say anything about it. If he could not investigate how the scorched tree was destroyed, then even if he contributed the mirage tree, it would still be useless. It would be better to arrange a ceiling entrapment array formation. The underground demonic creatures seemed to have been suppressed by Ning Cheng's law-breaking spirit technique. After Ning Cheng completed the entire confinement and killing array and even started to compress the confinement and killing array, the underground demonic creatures didn't move at all. In just one day, the underground monsters were chased back to the underground abyss, and the huge, withered scorched tree once again appeared in front of everyone. "Thank you, Dao Lord Ning. If it wasn't for you, it would be hard to say what would have happened to me." Even if he did not want to thank Ning Cheng, Yin Xingwen had to pinch his nose and publicly thank Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng knew that he and Yin Xingwen would not become friends. Moreover, he would also look for Yin Xingwen to settle accounts with him afterwards. As such, towards Yin Xingwen's gratitude, he just waved his hand and did not take it to heart. "Everyone, the most important thing we need to do now is to seal the monster under the scorched tree. Otherwise, even after we leave, the demonic creatures below would still rush out." Ning Cheng took the initiative to speak. Dao Lord Jia Xinshui of the Taishian Dao court felt a lot of admiration for Ning Cheng. The underground demonic creatures had been wreaking havoc for a long time. The entire army of the Dao court of the Grand Change Realm had been mobilized, and they had even opened the teleportation formation to the Grand Change Realm. However, they were still unable to stop these demonic creatures from wreaking havoc. As soon as Ning Cheng arrived, he drove the demonic creatures back with his confinement-killing array and law-breaking spirit technique. This was his ability. He was the first to step forward and say, "Dao Lord Ning is right. Our great change realm lacks top-notch array Dao experts like Dao Lord Ning. Now that we've driven the underground monsters back, it's the perfect time to seal them. I suggest that Dao Lord Ning take the lead and we work together to seal the underground abyss." Even the people who did not have a good relationship with Ning Cheng were very clear that only Ning Cheng could take on such a heavy responsibility. One could only imagine how powerful the Grand Essence Realm's Boundary Protection Grand Array was and how terrifying the Grand Essence Realm's Boundary Protection Grand Array was. Previously, when Ning Cheng used the Trap and Kill Array to push the demonic creatures back into the underground abyss, it also showed how powerful Ning Cheng's Dao of Array formations were. Following behind Jia Xinshui, everyone also agreed to Ning Cheng's proposal. "Dao Lord Ning, tell me what to do. I, Yin Xingwen, will be the first to fully support you." Yin Xingwen also felt helpless. Fortunately, Ning Cheng had to leave immediately after dealing with this matter. Otherwise, Ning Cheng's reputation in the Grand Change Realm would have exceeded Yin Xingwen's. Ning Cheng spoke up calmly, "I hope that all the major sects and Dao courts can come up with top-grade materials. Also, gather all the formation Dao masters in the entire Great Change Realm to help me set up the Trap and Kill sealing array." "No problem. Yaohua Dao Court will be the first to agree," Bai Ling said without hesitation. "Dao Lord Ning, even if we seal it directly, I'm afraid the demonic creatures will still break through the seal in a few years." Wei Xinghao said indifferently. Ning Cheng didn't care about this fellow. For him, it was his obligation to help. "Since Dao friend Wei Xing has a better way, then I won't embarrass myself. I still have some matters to attend to. Goodbye." Saying that, Ning Cheng did not hesitate to turn around and leave. Wei Xinghao's expression changed. Only then did he understand that Ning Cheng had volunteered to help. He didn't have to do anything about the seal. Seeing Ning Cheng's arrogant attitude, Wei Xinghao could only shut up. All the experts present stared at Wei Xinghao fiercely, thinking to themselves, "If you have the ability, then do it. You don't have the ability, yet you still want to talk nonsense." Yin Xingwen spoke up without any trace of politeness this time. "Dao friend Wei Xing, Dao Lord Ning came to help out of kindness. It's not right for you to say that. I hope that the Jade Clear Dao Court can set an example and not let Dao Lord Ning down. Dao Lord Ning, we all agree to use your method to seal the underground demonic creatures. If you need any help, Dao Lord Ning, please let us know." At this time, Yin Xingwen didn't dare to offend Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng didn't continue and said in a calm voice, "I hope that the Trap and Kill sealing array has an entrance. After the array is set up, anyone with a cultivation base can enter the scorched tree for a trial and obtain demonic crystals." "That's good. It's just like the original seal of the Great Change Realm. Some demonic creatures can be used as a trial." Bai Ling was the first to hear the benefits of Ning Cheng's method. Secondly, this seal also needs a top-grade treasure as the array core. It's best if it's a Xiantian treasure. After saying that, Ning Cheng looked at Yin Xingwen. He didn't believe that Yin Xingwen didn't have any good treasures in his hands after becoming the Great Change Realm's realm lord for so many years. If Yin Xingwen didn't want to take out any treasures, then it didn't matter. In the future, the demonic creatures would flood again. Yaohua Dao Court's Dao Lord Protector Gu Ruoshi suddenly looked at Yin Xingwen and said, "Xingwen Realm Lord, I remember that the Luying Dao Court's Dao Crossing Pool has a Dao Crossing bead. This bead should be a postnatal spiritual treasure, right?" Ning Cheng promptly echoed, "If there's a postnatal spiritual treasure, it should be enough to seal the underground demonic creatures." Yin Xingwen's expression turned ugly. Once the Dao crossing bead was taken away, the Luying Dao Court's Dao crossing pool would become useless. If it was before, he would have wanted Ning Cheng to find an excuse to take away the Dao crossing bead. But now, the Luying Dao Court was under his control. Once the Dao crossing bead was taken away, the cohesion of the Luying Dao Court would drop significantly. I originally planned to give this Dao crossing bead to Dao Lord Ning. Now that I want to use it to seal the demonic creatures, I can only trouble Dao Lord Ning. Yin Xingwen said with a dry laugh. Ning Qing didn't care about it at all. He knew that if he didn't use the Dao crossing bead to seal the underground demonic creatures, then Yin Xingwen would never give it to him. Ning Cheng's attainments in the Dao of arrays were indeed unmatched here. After gathering all kinds of top-grade materials and array formation masters, the underground abyss sealing and killing array progressed quickly. In just a few days, after Ning Cheng used the Dao crossing bead as the core of the sealing array, all the demonic creatures in the Scorched Tree Temple were sealed once again. Unlike the previous seals, Ning Cheng used the Dao crossing bead to seal the killing array. The killing array absorbed the spirit essence and spiritual chi of the underground abyss, which prevented the demonic creatures from advancing. At the same time, it could also strangle the underground demonic creatures. To break the killing array's seal, someone's attainments in the Dao of arrays had to surpass Ning Cheng's. Either that, or a peerless powerhouse among the demonic creatures could directly take the third step. After the killing array was set up, the Great Change Realm's powerhouses came forward to thank Ning Cheng. Whether there was hatred or not, Ning Cheng had done a great thing for the Great Change Realm. As for Ao Beijiang and Feng Xian, who didn't get along with Ning Cheng, they had long since disappeared. Dao Lord Ning, if it weren't for your help in the Great Change Realm, the consequences would have been unimaginable. The Great Change Realm's Dao Lords, Sect Masters, and all the Dao integration powerhouses came to thank Ning Cheng. Therefore, Yin Xingwen had no choice but to come forward. From the bottom of his heart, he really wanted to thank Ning Cheng for this matter, even if Ning Cheng had used up his Dao crossing bead. Ning Cheng's face sank. Realm Master Xingwen, you're also the Realm Master. You led the Great Change Realm's Dao Court army to invade my Great Essence Realm. I didn't expect you to let Su Xinghe capture my friend and use him as a sealing pillar. Yin Xingwen sighed in his heart. He knew that Ning Cheng had started to settle accounts and wanted benefits. When he first invaded the Great Essence Realm, he had lost Chaos Chi and a bunch of spirit veins. Now, Ning Cheng had come to take advantage of him. As a Realm Master, he felt extremely depressed. Now that Ning Cheng had spoken up, he couldn't find anyone to support him. After all, Ning Cheng had just done something great for the Great Change Realm, made a group of friends, and deterred some people who didn't like him. This matter. Just as the Star Rune World Lord said these 3 words, he heard a cold snort. Following that, 2 women directly crossed through the void and descended. Dao runes circulated around these 2 people, and it seemed as if a kind of rosy cloud was lingering around them, making them look mysterious and noble. Ning Cheng's eyebrows jumped up. He could feel the power of these 2 women. At the same time, he sighed in his heart. The Great Change Realm was indeed far stronger than the Great Essence Realm. There were only a few Dao integration experts in the Great Essence Realm, but Dao integration experts in the Great Change Realm were too cheap. Only 1 or 2 of them would appear from time to time. The 2 women hovered a foot above the ground in the void with rosy clouds swirling under their feet. In terms of appearance, these 2 women were stunning. Even Shan Yaotzen, who had a tall figure and good looks, paled in comparison to these 2 women. The woman on the left glanced at everyone and asked in an indifferent tone, "Who killed Su Xinghe?" Dao Lord Bai Ling glanced at Ning Cheng and suddenly cupped his fists. Yaohua Dao Courts Bai Ling greets the 2 temple masters of the 7 shrines. Ning Cheng understood that they were the 2 temple masters of the 7 shrines. He understood that Bai Ling deliberately reminded him of who these 2 people were. Ning Cheng hadn't stayed in the Great Change Realm for a long time, but he also knew that the 7 shrines were the most mysterious sect in the Great Change Realm. This sect didn't even pay attention to anyone and had always done things their own way. Now that he looked at these two temple masters with eyes on their foreheads, it really was the case. The old fogey didn't care whether you were from the 7 shrines or the 8 shrines. He smiled and said, "Your grandpa Ping Ding killed him. What's the matter? Is that ugly monster your lover? Courting death?" The beautiful woman who spoke suddenly raised her hand, and a 5-colored ribbon slowly floated over. 5-element space blockade? Ning Qing saw through this woman's spirit technique at a glance. He had seen the crudest version of this spirit technique when he was still in the starry sky. The 5-element space blockade displayed by this woman in front of him was completely different from the crude spirit technique he had seen in the past. Don't look at the 5-colored ribbon moving slowly. In fact, she had already locked onto the surrounding 5 elements. No matter where the old fogey moved, the 5-element space blockade would instantly form and lock him in place. If the old fogey didn't move, he would still end up dead. It was just like his ice-sealing space, except that his ice-sealing space had a mutated attribute. Moreover, this 5-colored ribbon also hid a vicious spatial crack in the middle. As long as the old fogey fell into the 5-element space, his life and death would be beyond his control. Ning Qing didn't move. The old fogey was an ancient heavenly emperor. If he couldn't even deal with a woman, then he really wouldn't live up to his name. The other woman didn't move. She didn't even look at her companion's movements. Instead, she looked at an E beside Ning Qing. When she looked at an E, her eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of surprise. Chapter 1238. The old man chuckled and blasted out the cosmic cauldron, sweeping up thousands of Tao runes and laws. The mountain-like cauldron's shadow collided with the soft multicolored ribbons, giving rise to an intense rumbling sound. Crack. It was as if something had been smashed, and a vacuum space appeared under the old man's cosmic cauldron. The silent 5-element spatial shackles did not take shape under the old man's cosmic cauldron. Even so, the old man did not stop. After tearing the 5-element spatial shackles apart, the cosmic cauldron blasted the center of the 5-colored ribbons. The hidden spatial devouring crack collapsed under the old man's cosmic cauldron. Puff! The woman who threw out the ribbons spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. Only then did the woman who had been looking at an E realize that her companion had lost. She flew backward immediately and caught the woman who had spat out blood. Then, she stared at the old man in shock. "You're at the early stage of Tao integration, but your Tao runes are so profound. 2 caterpillars dare to be rude to me. Get lost." "Don't anger your grandpa Ping Ding," the old man said disdainfully as he grabbed the cosmic cauldron in the void. All the experts in the Great Change Realm did not speak. Although Great Emperor Ping Ding was at the early stage of Tao integration, who was Ping Ding? He was an ancient great emperor. It was very normal for him to be able to easily slap an early-stage Tao integration woman from the 7 deities temple. He had even killed Su Xinghe with ease. The woman did not refute the old man's sarcastic words. Instead, the two of them landed in front of everyone again. The two of them did not continue to fight. They just stood there in the void, looking equally beautiful and equally tall. "You do have the ability to look down on us. I'm the 6th temple master of the 7 deities temple, He Shanli, and the one beside me is the 7th temple master, Wan Yi. You have 2 choices. One is for us to leave now, and the other is for you to come with us." The woman on the left spoke in a tone that was devoid of color. The old man was stunned. These 2 women had clearly lost just now. Why were they still speaking so confidently? Jie Xinxue frowned slightly and stepped forward with cupped fists. 2 temple masters, this is a friend of the Great Change Realm. She has also helped the Great Change Realm kill the demonic creatures. You're Jie Xinxue, a Tao Lord of the Taishian Tao Court. If you are good enough as a Tao Lord, the 7 Gods Hall doesn't mind kicking you out. Don't think that just because the Taishian Tao Court has a powerful guardian, you are not qualified to speak here. He Shanli did not wait for Jie Xinxue to finish speaking and interrupted him rudely. Ning Qing slightly frowned. Jie Xin Shui had good intentions. The Seven Gods Temple was simply too arrogant, it was actually threatening a Tao Lord in such a manner. However, looking at the 6th Hall Master and the 7th Hall Master, one was at the Tao Integration Intermediate stage, while the other was at the Tao Integration Initial stage. It seemed like the 7 Hall Masters of the 7 Divine Palaces were all Tao integration experts. No wonder they were so arrogant. And you can return to the 7 Deities Palace with us. The 1st Hall Master will definitely treat you differently. Wan Yi said as she pointed at an Yi who was wearing a light blue dress. She did not know why she wanted to take an Yi away. Hearing that an Yi had to go with them, Ning Cheng's face turned cold. Is the 7 shrines that great? Since it was so impressive, why was there no one from the 7 deities temple when the Tai Yi demonic creatures erupted? A group of selfish blood-sucking worms that only knew how to use resources and didn't know how to fulfill their obligations. Get lost, go back to where you came from, don't embarrass yourself here. While speaking, Ning Cheng raised his hand and blasted out several time wheels. The faces of the 2 hall masters of the 7 deities temple changed. Ning Cheng's words did not give them any face at all. However, in the face of Ning Cheng's time wheels, the 2 could only retreat quickly. With a whistling sound, the place where the 2 had just stood in the air turned into a flat plain, as if it had been sliced by the Tao. Although the 2 hall masters were not injured, both of them knew that Ning Cheng's move was a disdainful insult. It was like chasing the 2 away like dogs. Good. He Shanli's face turned livid, and she raised her hand and shot out a red light. It seems that the 7 deities temple has not come out for a long time, and many people have forgotten about it. Jie Xinxue saw Ning Cheng standing up for him and secretly felt grateful. Although Ning Cheng did not do it for him, only Ning Cheng did not fear the 7 deities temple. Bai Ling, who had not spoken until now, suddenly said, Tao Lord Ning is right. The 7 deities temple is indeed a selfish parasite. The demonic creatures are wreaking havoc in the Great Change Realm, and all the human cultivators in the Great Change Realm are contributing. Even the people who have a grudge with each other are contributing their strength here. Only the 7 deities temple, not only did not contribute, but also became overbearing. Standing up for Su Shenghe. Su Shenghe is just a dog of the 7 deities temple. Bai Ling, do you dare to be arrogant to my 7 deities temple just because Yaohua Dao Court has Guruashi? I still say the same thing, just like Jie Xinxue, keep your tail between your legs. He Shanli's tone turned even colder. Jie Xinxue was a Dao Lord of a court, not to mention in front of Dao Lord Ning Cheng, whom he respected. At this time, being constantly insulted by a woman, how could he bear it? It's fine if the 7 deities temple is a turtle, but don't point your fingers here. In Dao Lord Ning's words, go back to where you came from. The 2 Dao Lords stood up, and He Shanli's face turned ugly. The 7th Hall Master Wan Yi, who had not spoken, suddenly sent a voice transmission to He Shanli. 6th sister, that Dao Lord Ning should be a Dao Lord of the Taisu Dao Court, right? This person is very strong and can command several Dao integration experts. The guy who fought with me just now is not simple. Together with the Great Xian and Yaohua Dao Court, we still. Although He Shanli was angry, she did not continue to flip out. Seeing that the 2 of them did not leave, the old man suddenly said, the 7 deities temple is very arrogant. Xingwen Realm Lord, you don't seem to be a good Realm Lord. The 2 hall masters came, but they didn't see you. Yin Xingwen's expression remained the same, and he did not get angry because of the old man's words. Yaohua Dao Court's Gu Ruashi said softly, they do have the capital to be arrogant. The Great Change Realm originally belonged to the 6 major Dao courts, and the Confucian Pavilion Dao Court was destroyed by the 7 deities temple. The reason is very simple. The 7 deities temple has taken a fancy to the Confucian Pavilion Dao Court's No. 1 sacred city, Micro Jade's sacred city. In addition, they pretend to be mysterious. Whoever dares to disrespect the 7 deities temple will be destroyed. Over the years, they have gained some false reputation. Ning Cheng understood the meaning of Gu Ruashi's words. Since Guruashi had even said this, she obviously intended to support him and not give the seven deities temple any face. At the same time, he also understood why he Shanli spoke so arrogantly and looked down on everyone. This might not necessarily be intentional, it was to maintain a kind of arrogant arrogance. Of course, it was more of a kind of self-righteousness that had formed naturally over a long period of time. Boom! A roar reverberated in the sky, and then a crack appeared. Behind the crack, a beautiful chariot appeared. In the middle of the chariot sat a man in luxurious clothes. His face was fair and beardless, and he wore a great emperor's crown on his head. Beside him sat 3 stunning women. In addition, there were 18 beautiful maids of the same height serving on the side. Colorful clouds floated around the chariot, and around the colorful clouds were immortal cranes. The extravagance was extremely exaggerated. Based on the man's cultivation level, it was obvious that he was a peak Dao integration expert. Even the 3 stunning women by his side were Dao integration experts. Together with He Shanli and Ruan Yi, there were already 6 Dao integration experts. Ning Qing did not care about the man in luxurious clothes and the other Dao integration experts at all. His gaze fell on the beautiful chariot under the man. This was definitely a top-notch treasure, and it was not simple at all. Big brother. When He Shanli and Ruan Yi saw the chariot, the coldness on their faces had long disappeared and turned into passionate admiration. Big brother. Ning Cheng was a little puzzled. Jie Xinshui, who was next to him, sent a voice transmission to Ning Cheng. Dao Lord Ning might not know, but this man is the 7 deities temple's first hall master, Mo Gu. The second hall master to the 7th hall master of the 7 deities temple are all women, and they are also the first hall master's cultivation partners. That's why they call him Brother Gu, not Big Brother. The man in luxurious clothes seemed to have heard Jie Xinshui's voice transmission. He glanced at Jie Xinshui with a smile and suddenly said in a gentle and warm tone, Li Li, quickly come to the chariot. It's cold outside. The old fart suddenly made a retching sound. So sour, so sour. This is simply making me vomit out the rice I ate 1,000,000 years ago. The man in luxurious clothes looked at the old fart and said in a flat tone, You killed Su Shenghe and injured my woman? He Shanli immediately said, Yes, Brother Gu. It's him. Speaking of this, she suddenly changed to a voice transmission. He also has a heaven and earth cauldron. I guess it's a Khanate treasure. Although it was a voice transmission, it still fell into Ning Chang's ears. Sure enough, after the man in luxurious clothes heard this, his eyes shrank and he looked away from the old fart. Yin Xingwen saw the man in luxurious clothes looking over and quickly stepped forward with cupped fists. Hall Master Mo, long time no see. The man in luxurious clothes smiled softly. It's indeed been a long time. Congratulations, Realm Lord Xingwen. Yin Xingwen knew why the man in luxurious clothes congratulated him. This was to congratulate him for taking control of the Luiying Dao court. However, he just smiled and did not speak. The man in luxurious clothes did not ask anymore. Instead, his gaze fell on Ning Cheng. This must be Dao Lord Tai Su Ning Cheng, the one who told my 7 deities hall masters to scram, right? Sure enough, you look talented. Your cultivation level is also not bad. Both are at the early stage primordial chaos realm. Let's get to know each other. I am the 7 deities hall master, Mo Gu. Ning Cheng had long since grown tired of this kind of speech. At this moment, when the man in luxurious clothes spoke to him, he said without any trace of politeness, You can also scram. Don't affect this father's mood. Mo Gu did not seem to care about Ning Cheng's impoliteness. He still said with a smile, I like the woman beside you a lot. Today, I want to take her away. This time, Ning Cheng did not even bother to say, scram. Instead, his creation divine spear swept up with endless Dao runes and blasted over. When the surrounding people saw Ning Cheng make a move, they immediately made way. Ning Cheng's creation divine spear swept up a terrifying spatial killing aura and smashed towards Mo Gu like an entire realm. Chapter 1239. Ning Cheng's spear swept up a vast and majestic killing aura. Wei Xinghao, who had always thought that no matter how strong Ning Cheng was, he was just a primordial chaos sacred emperor. If he had used a spear, he would not have been able to display such terrifying power. Lord Hall Master Mo Gu, who also did not care about a mere primordial chaos sacred emperor like Ning Cheng, could no longer continue sitting in the carriage after Ning Cheng's spear shot out. Seeing Ning Cheng's spear, he knew that Ning Cheng's strength had far exceeded his estimation. He had been too lazy to get up from the carriage previously because Ning Cheng was just a primordial chaos sacred emperor and the old fart was just a Dao integration expert. As for Yin Xingwen, he was sure that the other party would not dare to attack him. Taixien Dao Court and Yaohua Dao Court. Ha. Was a battle between experts something that could be won with numbers? As Mo Gu rushed out of the carriage, he shouted sternly, Li, extract that Dao transformation woman's principal spirit. Leave her physical body behind. At the same time, aside from him, more than 20 women on the carriage also flew out in all directions. They were like dancing flowers in the air. Although these women's long skirts fluttered in the air, revealing an even more alluring scene, no one below paid attention to these women. All the experts retreated one after another, focusing all their attention on the confrontation between Ning Cheng and Mo Gu. After hearing Moge's words, 6th Hall Master He Shanli shouted, Sisters, help me stop that old thing called Shi Ding. I'll go capture the soul. As she spoke, He Shanli rushed towards an E. Boom. Crack. Ning Cheng's creation divine spear and Moge's carriage collided, sweeping up the shattered Dao rune laws that filled the sky. Ning Cheng's domain, which rarely cracked, also cracked at this moment. The layers of Dao runes outside Moge's carriage were directly torn apart by Ning Cheng. Neither of them had used their full strength in the first exchange. Although Ning Cheng had a slight upper hand, the cracks in his domain immediately affected an E. An E only had Dao transformation strength. Without Ning Cheng's protection, she could not even move under the suppression of a Dao integration expert's power. A deathly killing intent shrouded her head. Her face was a little pale, and she could only watch helplessly as He Shanli extracted her principal spirit. The old fart was blocked by the other 4-7 deities temple masters at this moment and could not split himself at all. Ning Cheng was so furious that he could no longer care about Mo Gu. He brought out the everlasting Blue Thunder City, and at the same time, he blasted the creation divine spear towards He Shanli. Puff. Before He Shanli's handprint could reach her head, an E had already spat out a mouthful of blood, and her primordial spirit was almost forcibly pulled out. Crack, as He Shanli was about to grab an Yi's Dao runes, the same moment He Shanli was an ice cage that locked in Cheng. Ka, just as He Shanli was about to grab an Yi's essence spirit, a space that was like an ice cage locked her in place, preventing her Dao charm aura from advancing any further. Cheng had the intent. He Dao Rung He E would break. Mo God He Cheng grabbed N's Cheng, and tried. Dao Rung's Cheng, and said. Moge's face turned livid with anger. He didn't think that Ning Cheng would dare to turn around and attack his woman. Sky collapsing divine chariot. Mo Gu took a step forward, and the magnificent chariot under him turned into a sky in an instant. This part of the sky completely enveloped Ning Cheng and directly pressed down on Ning Cheng. It was as if the entire sky had collapsed, and no power could stop it. The moment the chariot pressed down, the laws of heaven and earth shattered, and Ning Cheng's domain was torn apart. This was not a law-breaking divine ability, but it was more direct than Ning Cheng's law-breaking divine ability. Any law-breaking divine ability would be like floating clouds in the face of such a forceful crushing chariot. The sky-collapsing divine ability not only made Yin Xingwen's face turn ugly, but even the Dao lords of the Yaohua Dao Court and the Taixien Dao Court, who were ready to fall out with the 7 deities temple, also had ugly expressions. Once such a terrifying divine ability came crashing down, even tens of millions of Dao Court soldiers would not be able to withstand it. Boom, Kacha, the violent and majestic sky-collapsing divine chariot slammed into Ning Cheng's everlasting Blue Thunder Fort. In an instant, the everlasting blue thunder fort dissipated and returned to normal. After a few cracks appeared, it directly retreated into Ning Chang's sea of consciousness. Pfft! Ning Chang's bones shattered inch by inch, and his body was covered in cracks and blood. Even so, Ning Chang did not have the slightest thought of turning back to resist Mo Gu. The creation divine spear still swept up the sky full of killing intent and blasted into the cracked ice-sealed space. A shrill scream came out, and Ning Chang's creation divine spear suddenly stopped. Time and space came to a standstill at this moment, and everyone's breathing stopped at this moment. Mo Gu looked at Ning Chang's long spear in disbelief. Ning Chang's long spear carried a woman. It was he Shanli, who was about to kill an and take away her essence spirit. After a few breaths, Mo Gu suddenly screamed, "How dare you kill my Shanli! I will swallow your flesh, drink your blood, and burn your essence spirit for billions of years." The creation divine spear in Ning Chang's hands suddenly trembled, and he Shanli, who was at the spearhead, disappeared from the entire space like air. Ning Chang raised his hand and swallowed a few medicinal pills. Moge's injuries looked more terrible than the giant void hand, but in fact, the damage to him was far less than the previous explosion from the void. Kacha kacha. Almost in a flash, Ning Chang's bones reassembled, and his injuries healed by 90%. The strength of a body-refining expert was vividly reflected at this moment. Yi's essence spirit returned to her body, and her body also relaxed. She knew that continuing to stay in the front would only bring trouble to Ning Chang, so she quickly retreated. "Are you a body-refining expert with a true sage body?" Mo Gu saw that Ning Chang's injuries had almost recovered in a short period of time. Instead, he stopped what he was about to do and calmed down. He stared at Ning Chang with cold eyes. Ning Chang ignored Mo Gu and looked at the old fogey. The old fogey was at a disadvantage against 4 people. If it weren't for his universal palace, the old fogey would have already lost and fled. "Dao Lord Ning, go ahead and deal with Mo Gu. I'll help Sacred Emperor Ping Cauldron." Gu Ruoshi, who had been hesitating, stood up after seeing Ning Chang kill the 6th Hall Master. The 7 deity temples were very mysterious, but this kind of mystery was only relative to ordinary people. For some Dao integration powerhouses, they were not completely ignorant of the 7 deity temples. Lord Hall Master Mo Gu loved the other 6 Hall Masters to the bone. Now that Ning Chang had killed the 6th Hall Master, this matter could no longer be reconciled. Once Ning Chang lost, the Yaohua Dao court would face the revenge of the 7 deity temples. Instead of waiting to fight to the death with the 7 deity temples in the future, it was better to make a move now. If they made a move now, it was still unknown who would win. "There's also me, Wusun Yoshin." A tall man standing behind Jia Xinshui stood up. He was also a Dao integration powerhouse. Jia Xinshui said to Ning Chang, "Senior Wusun is the guardian of the Taixien Dao court. Dao Lord Ning, let's advance and retreat together this time." He had the same thoughts as Gu Ruoshi. If no one had died, this matter could still be discussed. Now that Ning Chang had killed the 6th Hall Master, this matter had long become a dead end. Ning Chang nodded. He did not need to say anything to the old man. Since he had killed the 6th Hall Master, the old man would definitely kill him in the next battle. This kind of ancient expert, let alone a few Hall Masters, even if he were to annihilate all 7 divine halls, he would not even frown. Mo Gu stared at Ning Chang with a gloomy expression. "Even if I can't kill you today, I will let you know the consequences of offending the 7 deity temples. I will let the souls of everyone who knows you suffer before they die. I will let you always remember that no matter how strong you are, there are some people you cannot touch." Moge's anger disappeared and he became terrifyingly calm. The carriage under his feet suddenly split apart and turned into a 5-colored weak Dao pattern. In a breath's time, this weak Dao pattern completely enveloped the space where he and Ning Chang were, forming a world. World creation. Ning Chang cried out in shock when he felt his spiritual consciousness and vision being blocked. This was not space control, but world control. No, Ning Qing quickly understood that Mo-gu had not reached the world creation realm. This was just a world simulated by the chariot. Ning Qing once again brought out the good fortune divine spear, but he was horrified to find that his good fortune divine spear could not sweep up this killing power. Everything here did not belong to him. Several time wills shot out, only to bring back a few dull sounds. Then, like mud falling into the sea. What kind of spirit technique was this? Ning Qing had just thought of this when a crisis of death seeped into his consciousness. Ning Cheng's figure flashed slightly, and with a puff sound, a blade light flashed across his waist, almost tearing his clothes apart. Ning Cheng's heart sank. A blade light could not make him feel a crisis of death. The only possibility was that this blade light contained a terrifying spirit technique or some kind of insidious poison. The surrounding domain seemed to become more and more solid, but also darker and darker. Although he couldn't see where Mo-gu was, Ning Qing felt sure that Mo-gu was not far from him, staring at him like a poisonous snake. This chariot was a treasure that could simulate a world creation spirit technique. Ning Qing also calmed down and no longer looked for Mo-gu. Instead, he raised his hand and cast out a spirit technique, none to depend on. Looking at Moge's sincere love for his Tao companions, as long as this fellow hid to the side, the none to depend on spirit technique could find him. None to depend on was a Tao sense spirit technique. At this time, Ning Cheng's Tao charm had solidified. When he cast none to depend on, its effect was no weaker than the chariot's world creation spirit technique. None to depend on, yellow sand rises. West wind ancient road has a skinny horse, relying on each other for a long time with tears. Yellow sand suddenly rolled up in the grayish space. The yellow sand grew stronger from weak to strong and finally formed a yellow sand ripple. Then, a long ancient road slowly emerged from the yellow sand. Ning Qing suddenly grabbed a barrel of none to depend on wine and gulped it down in a few mouthfuls. As the Tao charm of none to depend on grew stronger, the ancient road under the yellow sand grew more and more vicissitudes of life. However, there was no one on the ancient road. It was as if Mo-gu had disappeared. Ning Qing immediately sensed an even sharper deathly murderous intent. This time, Ning Qing didn't try to avoid the murderous intent. Instead, he grabbed the wine jar and took a step forward while singing loudly. Mysterious yellow rises, the body is like duckweed floating for millions of miles. Looking down at the vast starry sky, how many sword rains and saber lights, life and death are in a line. Crossing the void to see the good fortune, where can one obtain eternal life? The voice was hoarse and filled with vicissitudes of life, with a hint of alcohol. Chapter 1240. In the voice of the vicissitudes of life, Mo-gu, who had disappeared, finally set foot on the long ancient road. Mo-gu held a circle of light shadows with death aura in his hand, and his face seemed to be constantly changing. None to depend on, yellow sand rises, a thin horse on the west wind ancient road, relying on each other for a long time with tears, none to depend on, don't abandon your heart. Looking at each other from afar, it's better to turn around and leave each other. On the opposite side of Mo-gu, under the hazy yellow sand, a figure slowly appeared on the long ancient path. It was a pretty woman, leading a thin and weak old horse. She vaguely looked like He Shanli. Moge's eyes suddenly filled with pity and self-blame. Unlike the other cultivators who fell into the none to depend on divine power, he did not hesitate to rush towards He Shanli instead of turning around and leaving. Ning Qing gripped the creation divine spear tightly and did not attack Mo-gu at the best time. He Shanli's appearance here showed what Mo-gu was thinking. This was the condensation of the Tao runes deep in his heart. Ning Qing really did not have the heart to make a move at this time because Mo-gu was the first person who did not abandon his Tao companion after falling into the none to depend on divine power. Seeing that Mo-gu was about to rush to He Shanli's side, Ning Qing knew that he could not hesitate anymore. The creation divine spear swept up thousands of spear lights and Tao runes, directly crossing the space and blasting towards Mo-gu. Mo-gu, who was about to reach He Shanli, suddenly trembled. The confusion in his eyes disappeared instantly, and the next moment, he held the death light shadow in his hand and smashed it towards Ning Qing. Boom, the traceless spear pattern and the light shadow collided, and an explosion of Tao runes filled the sky. The surrounding laws were no longer traceless, but under this explosion of Tao runes, they shattered inch by inch. The yellow sand in the sky disappeared, and the thin horse on the ancient road disappeared. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness and vision were no longer obstructed and became clear. Poof, the traceless spear pattern brought up a bloody mist, and a few light shadows passed through Ning Cheng's domain at the same time and blasted Ning Cheng's body. Ka, the vague world formed by the chariot disappeared without a trace. Ning Cheng gripped the creation divine spear and faced Mo Gu in the void. The blood on Moge's eyebrows was eroded by the traceless spear intent and could not be stopped at all. It slid down Moge's face. Moge's face was expressionless as his eyes fell on the old man. At this time, only 2 of the 4 hall masters were left fighting the old man, Gu Ruashi and Wusun Yoshin. The other 2 were already dead on the ground. Gu Ruashi was also in Bai Ling's arms. It was unknown whether she was dead or alive. Even though this space was protected by the domains of the people who didn't participate in the battle, it was still filled with ravines and chaos. Unlike He Shanli's death, Mo Gu had lost 2 more women. However, the madness on his face was gone. However, the ice-cold killing intent in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. That kind of hatred was like the Yangtze River and the sea. Man, you and Bing Bing take Shu, and Er's bodies and leave immediately. If I don't come back, tell Cherry Blossoms. Cherry Blossoms will avenge me. After Mo Gu finished speaking, he once again turned his gaze towards Ning Cheng. Yes. The remaining 2 women did not hesitate to pick up the 2 corpses on the ground and quickly retreated. The 18 maids who hadn't made a move all this while also retreated quickly. The old fart didn't stop him, but he was also heavily injured. The woman who had retreated just now was not any weaker than him. When he killed the 7th palace master named Ruan Yi, the other party had plotted against him. If Ning Cheng hadn't been there, he would have escaped long ago. The old fart didn't stop him, and Wusun Yoshin naturally didn't stop him either. He was also seriously injured. If the other party didn't retreat, he might end up like Gu Ruashi. It wasn't that Ning Cheng didn't want to move, but he couldn't. His previous guess was right. Moge's light and shadow contained extremely terrifying toxins. It actually obstructed the flow of his Dao charm and even started to corrode his sea of consciousness. At this time, Ning Cheng was trying his best to contain the invasion of the poison. Before this, the most powerful poison Ning Cheng had seen was the pattern bone poison. Ning Cheng definitely wasn't any weaker than the pattern bone poison. The pattern bone poison was one of the top 10 poisons in the world. Ning Cheng guessed that the poison in his body must also be one of the top 10 poisons. Not only was Mo Gu powerful and had terrifying spiritual power, but his use of poison was also appalling. Even with his current strength and understanding of the Tao, Mo Gu still managed to seriously injure him after breaking free from the nun to depend on poison. This Moge's tyrannical strength was unbelievable. Just as he said, he truly had the ability to be arrogant. After the 20 women left, Mo Gu stared at Ning Cheng and said, "You're the strongest person I've ever seen since I started cultivating. Your intent realm spirit technique was very powerful. If you hadn't gone soft, you would have killed me. However, you've killed my woman, so I'll definitely kill everyone around you. Then, I'll use the most vicious Yin fire to burn your primordial spirit. You won't have the chance." Ning Cheng forcibly sealed the toxins in his body. He knew that Mo Gu was also forcibly expelling the Dao charm from his spear intent. Crush. Mo Gu unleashed his spirit technique while Ning Cheng spoke. The restored chariot rolled up once again, and the chariot turned into 7 colors. These 7 colors merged with the surrounding laws of heaven and earth and instantly formed a 7-colored Dao charm. The 7-colored Dao charm filled the space between heaven and earth and swept towards Ning Cheng like raging waves. Compared to this 7-colored Dao charm, the 7th Hall Master's 5 elements spatial shackles felt like a baby learning to walk. Ning Cheng gripped the creation divine spear tightly and took a small step forward. He then raised his hand and unleashed a spirit technique. The law-breaking spirit technique wouldn't have much effect in the face of this seven-colored Dao charm. From the time he fought against Mo Gu until now, Ning Qing already knew that Mo Gu was a top-notch expert. Moreover, like him, Mo Gu could control laws. Even if he used the law-breaking spirit technique, the seven-colored Dao charm of the chariot could still derive its own laws. Just like the fake world from before, with his current cultivation, the laws couldn't interfere with it. What Ning Qing brought out was the fourth Yellow Springs Bridge. A long yellow river came from the void and roared around Ning Qing. The long cyan bridge landed under Ning Qing's feet. As soon as the fourth Yellow Springs Bridge came out, the rolling long river and the seven-colored Dao charm collided. The seven-colored light and the yellow river's Dao charm exploded, and the surrounding spatial domain shattered inch by inch. Small void cracks appeared once again. The majestic Dao charm rolling over the Yellow Springs Bridge completely blocked the seven-colored Dao charm that was about to imprison Ning Qing again. At this time, Ning Qing could exit Moge's seven-colored Dao charm space at any time. Not waiting for the two's Dao charm spirit techniques to explode, Ning Qing's sea of consciousness stirred, and the dark consciousness storm blasted out like an invisible sea. Passively taking a beating had never been Ning Qing's habit. As soon as the dark consciousness storm formed, Ning Qing's face suddenly turned pale. Facing the seven-colored Dao charm that was getting more and more restrictive, Ning Qing not only didn't retreat, but also took a step forward. The dark consciousness storm formed an even more terrifying spiritual consciousness attack. Dark consciousness explosion. Although shocked that Ning Qing even had the fourth Yellow Springs Bridge, Mo Gu didn't feel disappointed that the Yellow Springs Bridge had blocked the seven-colored Dao charm. Instead, a cold smile appeared on his face. Seven-colored Dao convergence, kill. The seven-colored Dao charm spatial shackles suddenly disappeared, and in a flash, it condensed into a Dao charm killing intent that directly ignored space and blasted into Ning Qing's glabella. At the same time, Ning Qing's dark consciousness explosion blasted into Moge's sea of consciousness. The cold smile on Moge's face froze, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He didn't hesitate to turn around, and the magnificent chariot landed under his feet. The next moment, he appeared on the horizon. Ning Qing, even if I can't kill you this time, don't even think about. Moge's voice suddenly stopped, and his eyes showed a trace of fear in the face of death. His entire body also froze. An aura of death locked onto him. No matter how he moved, he would die without a doubt. Five-colored star splitter arrow. Since Mo Gu appeared, this was the first time his voice trembled. A trace of purple blood overflowed from the corner of Ning Qing's mouth. His glabella, like Mo Gu, was also bleeding. If it weren't for the celestial river flame in his sea of consciousness, the seven-colored Dao charm condensed from the Dao charm would have already exploded his sea of consciousness. The celestial river flame was a sacred flame with a fire spirit. Therefore, when this attack blasted into Ning Qing's sea of consciousness, it immediately turned into a fiery light that wrapped around the Dao charm killing intent and burned it to ashes. Even so, the exploding killing intent still caused great damage to Ning Qing's sea of consciousness. Fortunately, Ning Qing's sea of consciousness was a starry sky sea of consciousness, which was tough and vast. Therefore, this kind of damage quickly disappeared. I told you, you can't get away. Ning Qing's voice fell, and the five-colored star splitter arrow shot out with a tearing sound. At this moment, Ning Qing's strength was no longer the same as before, which required him to gather power for half a day. Almost at the same time he brought out the five-colored star splitter arrow, the star splitter arrow, along with the aura of death, crossed space-time. A grayish deathly aura spread out, and everyone could only feel the aura of death wrapping around Mo Gu. However, they couldn't even see the shadow of the five-colored star splitter arrow. Bang! Moge's entire body collapsed under the impact of the five-colored star splitter arrow. Ning Qing, who stood on the Yellow Springs Bridge, swayed slightly and even staggered a little. Ning Qing swallowed several detoxification pills. He knew that these pills couldn't detoxify the poison in his body and could only temporarily suppress it. At least he managed to kill Mo Gu. Ning Cheng raised his hand and wanted to grab Moge's chariot and storage ring. A jade-like arm stretched out from the void, and a delicate white hand grabbed Moge's storage ring in front of Ning Cheng. It even swept away the chariot. Ning Cheng became furious. He had worked so hard to obtain this victory, but now it was going to become a wedding dress for others. Before Ning Cheng could speak, that jade-like hand grabbed the 5-colored star splitter arrow that Ning Cheng had not yet taken back. Ning Cheng laughed out of anger. She even wanted his weapon. Was she bullying him because he was poisoned and seriously injured? A spiritual consciousness imprint shot out, and the jade-like hand grabbing the 5-colored star splitter arrow suddenly exploded. The 5-colored star splitter arrow directly cut through space and disappeared into Ning Cheng's wrist. Remember, my name is Zhu Yinghua, the 7 World Shrine's 2nd Temple Master. One day, I will come find you. With these words, the torn void in the distance suddenly disappeared. Chapter 1241. Ning Cheng's face remained calm. He had blown off one of Zhu Yinghua's hands. His strength would probably drop by another level. Even if he saw the 3rd step, he wouldn't be able to reach it so quickly. A sacred emperor who had yet to reach the 3rd step wanted to snatch his Dharma treasure. Even if he suffered several times more severe injuries, Zhu Yinghua, could forget about snatching away the 5-colored star splitter arrow. Big Brother Ning. An Yi was the first to arrive in front of Ning Cheng. Her face was filled with worry. Ning Cheng put away the 4th Yellow Springs Bridge and forced a smile. Don't worry, I'm a pill sage. This poison can't do anything to me. Dao Lord Ning is truly inferior to us. He actually managed to sever one of Zhu Yinghua's hands despite being heavily injured. It was said that Zhu Yinghua's strength was second only to Mo Gu in the 7 Deity Temple, and she had already taken a peek at the 3rd step. Now that Dao Lord Ning has cut off one of her hands, it will be even more difficult for her to reach the 3rd step. Yin Xingwen laughed and followed an Yi. As he spoke, his eyes fell on Ning Cheng. The hand that Zhu Yinghua had used to snatch the treasure was not a Dao rune hand seal, but a real hand. Because of his greed to snatch Ning Cheng's 5-colored star splitter arrow, his arm ended up getting blasted off by Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng knew that Yin Xingwen had a more important meaning behind his words, that is, Yin Xingwen wanted to know how much his strength had dropped. Ning Cheng glanced at Yin Xingwen and spoke with a calm tone, Xingwen World Master, I suffered some injuries, so I won't be coming to your World Lord's Peak today. As for the matter of you kidnapping my friend and preparing to refine the ceiling array pillar, you decide what to do about it. After saying that, Ning Cheng didn't wait for Yin Xingwen to answer and walked directly to Bai Ling. Dao Lord Bai Ling, many thanks for this. If it wasn't for Gu Ruashi's help, I might not have been able to kill Mo Gu. If Gu Ruashi did not come forward, then Wusun Yoshin would also not come forward. With the old fart's personality, he would definitely flee if he couldn't win. He would definitely not risk his life to save him. Once the old fart escaped, he would have to face 5 Dao integration experts by himself, including a super expert like Mo Gu. It would be difficult for him to escape. The main reason was that Moge's false world boundary was too powerful. Once this thing trapped him, besides entering the mysterious yellow bead, what else could he do? Bai Ling's expression was somewhat miserable. She shook her head. If Mo Gu doesn't die, my Yaohua Dao Court will eventually end up like the Confucian Pavilion Dao Court. Aunt Shi helping you is equivalent to helping ourselves. But right now, Aunt Shi. Ning Cheng understood Bai Ling's concerns. Gu Ruashi was the Yaohua Dao Court's guardian. Once something happened to Gu Ruashi, the Yaohua Dao Court would face a storm. Ning Cheng showed a slight smile. Dao Lord Bai Ling, you don't have to worry. Only Dao Friend Gu's essence spirit and Dao charm have dissipated. Under normal circumstances, he could only choose to reincarnate, or freeze his primordial spirit, which was about to collapse, to find a way to survive. I'm a pill saint after all, I still have some things on me. With that, Ning Cheng took out a medicinal pill and put it in Bai Ling's hand. Give this medicinal pill to Dao Friend Gu. Once you take it, your essence spirit will condense, and your Tao charm will solidify once again. 6 Soul Pill. Bai Ling looked at the Tao pill in his hand and exclaimed in shock. Ning Qing nodded, that's right, it is indeed the 6 Soul Pill. If it was a long time ago, I would not dare to say such words. Since Tao friend Gu's essence spirit has not dissipated, it is the right time to take this pill. Tao Lord Ning, as far as I know, the 6 Soul Pill cannot condense Tao charm, and the target it saves is only below the Tao essence realm. Mu Zuoxiao, who stood on the side, spoke up in doubt. Mu Zuoxiao's master, Ao Beijiang, had left, but he did not. He had always admired Ning Cheng's Tao of alchemy. Previously, when he stood on the opposite side of Ning Cheng, he had no way to discuss the Tao of alchemy. But now that he was no longer on the opposite side of Ning Cheng, he was ready to discuss the Tao of alchemy with Ning Cheng. If there was anyone who could question Ning Cheng's medicinal pill, it would undoubtedly be him. Bai Ling didn't care about Mu Zuoxiao's words and didn't hesitate to put the 6 Soul Pill into Gu Ruoxi's mouth. Ning Qing saw Gu Ruoxi swallow the medicinal pill and nodded to Mu Zuoxiao. Tao friend Mu's Tao charm has solidified, and it looks like you're about to reach Tao unification. Ordinary 6 Soul Pills can't save Gu Ruoxi, but this 6 Soul Pill is different. I added something in it. What is it? Mu Zuoxiao blurted out. Ning Qing didn't answer Mu Zuoxiao's words. He naturally wouldn't tell Mu Zuoxiao that his 6 Soul Pill contained the bestowing lawless fruit. The value of that half a bestowing lawless fruit far exceeded the value of the 6 Soul Pill. In just a few breaths, Bai Ling was pleasantly surprised to feel that Gu Ruoxi's essence spirit had stopped collapsing. Not only that, but her essence spirit had also started to condense. Even the Tao charm around her body had started to solidify. Bai Ling looked up at Ning Cheng, but before she could even express her gratitude, Gu Ruoxi had already opened her eyes, and immediately sat up. The next moment, endless heaven and earth spirit chi started to gather around her. Gu Ruoxi's Tao charm started to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. The people around her felt sluggish. They had never seen such a powerful essence spirit Tao core. Ning Qing sighed in his heart. Sun Hanrui had wasted too much time. Otherwise, a 6 Soul Pill would have definitely helped her condense her soul. Fortunately, she had her own opportunities. With Nyanyan's heaven-defying means, she could definitely save her. Bing Ling felt pleasantly surprised for a while before remembering that she should thank Ning Cheng. She quickly bowed to Ning Cheng and said, "Many thanks, Tao Lord Ning." Yin Xingwen also felt shocked. A medicinal pill that could help a Tao perfection powerhouse condense her essence spirit. This medicinal pill itself was priceless. He didn't have time to consider the impact on him if the Yaohua Tao court didn't suffer any damage. Instead, he took out a ring and handed it to Ning Cheng. "Tao Lord Ning, there are some materials in here. Thank you for your help to my great change realm. I hope Tao Lord Ning doesn't mind." He didn't dare to attack Ning Cheng and chose to reconcile with Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng was indeed poisoned, but he only had less than 20% confidence that he could keep Ning Cheng. Moreover, he also had to take into account other people's objections. Once Ning Cheng left, he and Ning Cheng would end up in an irreconcilable situation. Yin Xingwen already had lingering fears about Ning Cheng's combat prowess. Ning Cheng put away the ring and didn't say much. He wanted Yin Xingwen to compensate him, but it was just a matter of formality. This was a warning to Yin Xingwen that if Ning Cheng's friends or people around him appeared in the Great Change Realm in the future, Yin Xingwen would have to be polite. If something like an happened again, the result would not be so simple. "Tao Lord Ning, my great mystery Tao court isn't far from here." When Jie Xinxue saw Ning Cheng take out the 6 Soul Pill to save Gu Ruoxi, he knew that it was of great importance to befriend Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng wasn't just powerful in his attacks and his array Tao. He was also a top-notch alchemy saint. Ning Cheng didn't wait for Jie Xinxue to finish speaking and tactfully refused. "I'm poisoned and need to find a place to detoxify myself. Alchemy Saint Ning, why don't you come to my elixir building? If I'm not wrong, Alchemy Saint Ning is poisoned by the sought adversity poison, one of the top 10 poisons in the world, Mu Zuoxiao said sincerely. He sincerely wanted to invite Ning Qing to discuss the alchemy Dao. Sought adversity poison. Sure enough, it was the sought adversity poison. Ning Qing had guessed that he was poisoned by the sought adversity poison, but he wasn't very sure. Now that Mu Zuoxiao could tell that he was poisoned by the sought adversity poison, it was definitely the sought adversity poison. The sought adversity poison was one of the top 10 poisons in the world, and it could corrode one's sea of consciousness and Dao charm. Once one's sea of consciousness and Dao charm corroded, one's vitality would gradually dissipate. In the end, the poisoned person would only leave behind an empty corpse with their spiritual soul extinguished. Union Master Mu's understanding of everything in the world truly far surpasses mine. If not for Union Master Mu's reminder, I wouldn't have been sure that I was poisoned by the sought adversity poison. Ning Qing cupped his fists and spoke with admiration. In any case, Mu Zuoxiao had already surpassed him in terms of poison recognition. If he hadn't seen the universe vegetation, he might not have thought of the sought adversity poison. Mu Zuoxiao looked ashamed. Alchemy Saint Ning overpraises you. I didn't see the sought adversity poison in you, but I know that Mo Gu once obtained this kind of poison. Unfortunately, I don't have any way to detoxify this poison. I'm willing to discuss this poison with Alchemy Saint Ning and work together to detoxify it. Ning Qing guessed that Mu Zuoxiao meant what he said, but he didn't intend to go to Mu Zuoxiao's place to detoxify it. After he politely thanked Mu Zuoxiao, he spoke up. Today, in the battle against the devils, this Ning can be considered to have fought side by side with all of you. If fate wills it, let's meet again in the future. Goodbye. Everyone came forward to bid farewell to Ning Qing. Ning Qing politely said his goodbyes one by one. Finally, he walked up to Yan Kong and said, Master Yan Kong, I might visit the Thousand Buddha Sacred Tao sect in the future. Master Yan Kong quickly put his palms together and said, My Thousand Buddha Sacred Tao sect welcomes Tao Lord Ning at any time. Let's go. Ning Qing laughed and left with an E and the old fogey. The sought adversity poison was terrifying, and the universe vegetation didn't have an antidote. But Ning Qing didn't worry too much about it. He believed that with his ability, he could eventually find a way to detoxify it. At worst, he could just slowly deduce it. One day, he could deduce a way to detoxify the sought adversity poison. With his starry sky sea of consciousness and Tao of returning to one, the sought adversity poison couldn't kill him in a short time. In fact, Ning Qing also felt that his Tao charm could temporarily wrap around the sought adversity poison. As for asking Yin Xingwen about the location of the cultivator from the Grand Essence Realm, Ning Qing quickly dispelled the idea. The main reason was that he was poisoned. Yin Xingwen was too shrewd. Don't look at him acting polite here. But if he stayed in the Grand Change Realm for a long time, Yin Xingwen might not take action against him. He had a place to detoxify. The verdant bamboo forest that Nian had given him back then was a tranquil place. Ning Cheng's group had just left the battlefield in the underground abyss when a tyrannical spiritual consciousness swept over. Ning Cheng immediately stood in the void. Even if he was poisoned, he wasn't someone that could be dealt with by some stray dogs or cats. A moment later, a beautiful middle-aged woman landed in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng, who originally had a trace of killing intent, suddenly froze when he saw this middle-aged woman. This middle-aged woman was at the peak of primordial chaos realm and a half-step into Tao integration realm. What surprised Ning Cheng was that she looked 70% similar to Shi Qianghua. Chapter 1242. If you don't mind, you can come to a place with me. The middle-aged woman took the initiative to speak up when she saw Ning Cheng in a daze. Okay. Ning Cheng agreed without hesitation. He had already guessed that this middle-aged woman and Shi Qianghua had a relationship. Since she took the initiative to come to him, it meant that she wanted to tell him about Shi Qianghua. The middle-aged woman brought out a flight-type weapon and flew forward. Ning Cheng also brought out a flight-type weapon and followed behind with the old man. Half a day later, the middle-aged woman's flight-type weapon entered an ordinary-looking sacred Tao city. After wandering around the sacred Tao city for half an hour, the middle-aged woman brought Ning Cheng into a small cave courtyard. Since the courtyard had restrictions that isolated spiritual consciousness, Ning Cheng didn't use his spiritual consciousness to forcibly check it out. The middle-aged woman brought Ning Cheng's trio to the guest hall and poured a cup of divine tea for each of them. She then said to Ning Cheng, "Tao Lord Ning, I should salute you. You're the Tao Lord of Grand Essence Realm, and I'm a cultivator from Grand Essence Realm. I don't know if Tao Lord Ning knows me, but I'll introduce myself first. My name is Shi Qianxi, and I come from the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. Maybe Tao Lord Ning guessed that I'm Qionghua's mother." Ning Cheng quickly stood up. Although he had guessed that this middle-aged woman had a relationship with Qianghua, he didn't expect this woman to be Qionghua's mother. Seeing Shi Qianxi not moving, Ning Cheng could only bow with cupped fists and say, "Ning Cheng greets senior. Is Qianghua also here?" Shi Qianxi nodded, "Yes, Qianghua is here. But you have to listen to me first." Ning Cheng held back the fluctuations in his heart and tried to speak in a slow tone. "Senior, please speak." Shi Qianxi looked at Ning Cheng for a while and suddenly said, "Ever since I learned that Qionghua's purity had been ruined in her 9th life, I almost left the Grand Essence Realm to tear that person's body into 1,000 pieces. But I held back because I knew that if Qianghua didn't want to, no one in the lower realms could ruin her purity." Ning Cheng's expression remained calm. He and Shi Qianghua did have some misunderstandings. Later, when the two got together, it was completely out of love and without any reluctance. Today, no matter what Shi Qianxi said, he would still take away Qianghua. "Later, when I learned that you were the person in Qionghua's heart in the Grand Essence Realm, I gave up on attacking you. Or, at that time, I could no longer move you. After that, your status grew higher and higher. Not to mention me, even the sect master of my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond couldn't do anything to you openly." Although Shi Qianxi's tone was calm, Ning Cheng could still hear some unwillingness in it. Speaking till here, Shi Qianxi paused and deliberately looked at Ning Cheng for a while, before continuing, "To be honest, if not for other things, then you are the best choice for Qianghua. Qionghua's eyes are quite good, she did not misjudge a person. Senior, please let Qianghua come out and let me see her." Ning Cheng finally could not help but make this request. Shi Qianxi acted as if she hadn't heard Ning Cheng's words and spoke up calmly, "Tao Lord Ning, do you know what cultivation method my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond cultivates?" Ning Cheng nodded, "I've heard about it, but I don't know much about it." Shi Qianxi didn't ask Ning Cheng to answer. Instead, she took the initiative to explain, "My 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond cultivates a cultivation method that is unique in the entire Grand Essence Realm. Tao Lord Ning might not like to hear it, but even your cultivation method might not be as good as my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond's cultivation method." Ning Cheng didn't comment. He didn't need to argue about such things. He didn't believe that the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond's cultivation method could surpass his mysterious yellow formless. His mysterious yellow formless was a good fortune cultivation method. Unless the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond also had a good fortune treasure that derived a good fortune cultivation method. Even if the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond derived a good fortune cultivation method, it couldn't be stronger than the mysterious yellow formless. Only those with a good fortune treasure could cultivate the mysterious yellow formless. Otherwise, even if he gave the mysterious yellow formless to others, they could only look at it and not cultivate it. Shi Qianxi didn't know Ning Cheng's thoughts and still said, "My 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond cultivates a cultivation method called the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Art. Tao Lord Ning might not know what's special about the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Art. But I believe that Tao Lord Ning should have heard of the 10 major spirit techniques, right? The reincarnation spirit technique, ranked 6th among the 10 major spirit techniques, requires one to cultivate the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Art. I heard that Tao Lord Ning has a spirit technique called the 7 Bridges. In fact, the 7 Bridges also contains the reincarnation bridge. It's just that the reincarnation spirit technique is slightly different from the reincarnation bridge of the 7 Bridges." Ning Cheng nodded, as far as I know, the real name shouldn't be the 10 major spirit techniques, but the 10 major cultivation methods. Of course, I only know 8 cultivation methods. Among them, the reincarnation technique isn't ranked 6th, but 4th. In fact, Ning Qing sometimes wondered if the 4th one wasn't called the reincarnation technique, but the 7 bridges. Just like the karma cultivation method, the reincarnation cultivation method was just a branch of the 7 bridges cultivation method. Later, Ning Qing dispelled this idea. He had already mastered 5 bridges of the 7 bridges spirit technique. In fact, even the combined power of the first 5 bridges couldn't rank among the 10 major spirit techniques. Dao Lord Ning, you actually know about the 10 major cultivation methods? Shi Qianqi glanced at Ning Qing in surprise. According to the common saying in the Grand Essence realm, it was the 10 major spirit techniques. However, very few people knew about the 10 major cultivation methods. I've heard a little about them, but I don't know much about them. Ning Qing replied honestly. Shi Qianqi breathed a sigh of relief. Since Dao Lord Ning knows about the 10 major cultivation methods, then it would be easier for Dao Lord Ning to understand them. Although the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao art is powerful, no one in the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond has succeeded in cultivating this cultivation method, except for the first sect master. Even the old ancestor of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond only managed to cultivate a pseudo-9 revolutions. Seemingly feeling the difficulty of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond, Shi Qianqi sighed subconsciously. Cultivating the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao art is too difficult. The first step requires 9 reincarnations. Not only do you have to maintain a kind heart in each life, but you also have to maintain a pure body. This is just the most basic requirement. The more important requirement is that you must cultivate to the Dao sculpting realm or above in each life. Ning Qing didn't speak. When it came to kindness, he believed in Qionghua. But to say that the women of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond were kind, he couldn't help but chuckle. In his opinion, even the most poisonous poison couldn't compare to the group of women from the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond. If he hadn't seen the spirit transplant technique with his own eyes, he would have thought that Shi Qianqi was telling the truth. He didn't know if Shi Qianqi saw Ning Cheng's disdain, but she explained, of course, kindness is only for those cultivators who want to undergo 9 reincarnations. Because every reincarnation, you don't know your origin at the beginning. Just like an ordinary person, you act according to your own heart. It's rare to maintain a kind heart for 9 reincarnations. Since the establishment of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond, apart from the first sect master, only Qionghua has truly cultivated to 9 reincarnations. Ning Qing interrupted Shi Qianqi's words and said with a stiff tone, Senior Shi, I know that Qionghua is your daughter, but she is also my wife. The implication was that Qionghua was already his wife in her 9th reincarnation, which didn't conform to the cultivation method of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao art. If Shi Qianqi wanted to use this excuse to keep Qionghua, it would make him feel very uncomfortable. Shi Qianqi didn't feel surprised by Ning Cheng's words. Instead, she nodded, I know that Qionghua was your wife in her 9th reincarnation. What surprised me and the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond's old ancestor was that Qionghua came back in her 10th reincarnation. It stood to reason that she became Dao companions with you in her 9th reincarnation, and the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao art would no longer be fated with her. But the truth is that her 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao art has lost its edge, and she has already completed the first step of cultivation. Not only that, but her body also carries the aura of the origin Dao. You can say that as long as there are no other problems, Qionghua has a great chance to step into the 3rd step and walk through a realm that countless people can't even dream of reaching. Ning Cheng remained silent. He didn't doubt Shi Qianqi's words. He had the mysterious yellow bead, a good fortune treasure. Qionghua was his wife, and they had been husband and wife before. Even in her 9th reincarnation, it wasn't impossible for Qionghua to have the aura of the origin Dao after her reincarnation. Shi Qianqi looked at Ning Qing sincerely and said, the most difficult part of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao art is the first step. Once you pass the first step, it would be a smooth path to the Dao. If you really like Cheonghua, I hope that you can wait until Cheonghua reaches the third step of Tao confirming before getting together with her. Otherwise, Cheonghua's 9 revolutions sacred Tao art will end here, and her Tao will also end here. How could Ning Cheng not understand Shi Qianqi's meaning? Waiting for Shi Cheonghua to reach the third step of Tao confirming before getting together with her was a complete lie. Not to mention when Shi Cheonghua could reach the third step of Tao confirming, even if she knew how many years it would take for Shi Cheonghua to reach the third step of Tao confirming, in Shi Qianqi's view, Ning Cheng was just a passerby in Cheonghua's life. Seeing Ning Cheng not speaking and not showing any expression in his eyes, Shi Qianqi sighed again and said, "With your strength, it would be easy to take away Cheonghua. If you really want to do so, I won't stop you." Big brother Ning. An E, who sat next to Ning Cheng, called out in worry. Ning Cheng stood up, "I'm going to see Cheonghua, she." Not waiting for Ning Cheng to finish his words, Shi Qianqi pointed to a room opposite them and said, "Cheonghua lives across the street. She's also waiting for you. You can go." Ning Cheng signaled an E not to worry and asked her and the old fart to wait here. He then stepped out of the room and landed at the door of the opposite room in just a few steps. "Is it Big Brother Ning? Please come in." Ning Cheng had just landed when the restriction at the door of the room opened, and a soft voice and Shi Cheonghua's familiar face entered Ning Cheng's eyes. Beside Shi Cheonghua was another beautiful woman in white robes. When she saw Ning Cheng standing at the door, she bowed to Ning Cheng and said, "You talk, I'll take my leave first." Ning Cheng looked at the familiar person in front of him and felt something stuck in his heart, making him unable to vent. A deep sense of remorse welled up inside him. In his opinion, Cheonghua's accident was all because of him. Chapter 1243. Cheonghua. Ning Cheng felt that his throat was a bit dry. Obviously Cheonghua was in front of him, but he felt as if he had lost something. Shi Cheonghua sighed, as she raised her hand to form a restriction and spoke, "Big brother Ning, please sit down." Ning Cheng did not sit down, rather he took a deep breath and spoke, "Cheonghua, did you forget what happened before? I heard Luofei say that if it weren't for you, she would have been killed by your younger sister. Since you still remember me, why do you make me feel like a stranger?" Shi Cheonghua stared at Ning Cheng for a long time before she suddenly took out a jade strip and placed it in Ning Cheng's hands. "This is the 9 revolutions sacred Tao art that I cultivate. This cultivation method jade strip was given to me by my mother after I successfully completed the first step of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao art. In the history of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao pond, only the first sect master successfully cultivated the 9 revolutions sacred Tao art. The first sect master was my ancestor, and I was the second person to cross the hardest step of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique." The jade slip carried a trace of an ancient aura. It was obvious that it came from ancient times. Ning Cheng did not look at the jade strip in his hands, but rather put the jade strip on the table, and spoke in a gentle tone, "Cheonghua, you just have to tell me if you still have your memories." Shi Cheonghua nodded and spoke, "I still have my memories, no one has done anything to me." After cultivating the 9 revolutions sacred path technique for 9 reincarnations and completing the first step, it would sever all the grudges and emotions of the previous 9 lives. When I was in the everlasting sacred shrine, the first step had not yet been perfected, and I still retained the emotions from my previous life. Later, I used the soul concealment technique and fell into a coma. Just as I was about to die, my mother helped me obtain the purple divine spring bead. After I recovered, the first step of the 9 revolutions sacred path technique was completed. I got rid of all the emotions from my previous 9 lives and only retained some important memories. You and I became husband and wife. This is an important memory to me, and I have kept it. No wonder you joined the Severing Emotions Tao sect, it turns out that there are traces of it here. Ning Cheng muttered to himself, as he felt extremely sad in his heart. What he wanted was not for Cheonghua to retain her memories. Retaining her memories and cutting off her emotions, what was the difference between her and Su Yingde? "This is for you." Shi Cheonghua did not know what to say, as she took out a mottled copper coin and placed it in Ning Cheng's hands. 5 elements treasure fall copper coin. Ning Qing stared at the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin in his hand, while his thoughts drifted back to a distant place. For the current him, this magic treasure was perhaps more of a souvenir. Shi Qianghua silently looked at Ning Cheng, but did not interrupt Ning Cheng's thoughts. Not knowing for how long, Ning Cheng finally placed the copper coin in Shi Qianghua's hands and spoke, "Qianghua, this is something that I want to give to you. If you feel that you like it, then you can keep it with you. If you don't like it, just throw it away." Ning Qing suddenly remembered that Tian Muwan had given his pearl hair clip to other people, and had even faked that other person's hand to throw it away, and could no longer speak a single word. Shi Qianghua grabbed the 5 elements treasure fall copper coin and spoke softly, "I will not throw it away. Even though I severed the emotions of my previous 9 lives because I successfully cultivated the 9 revolutions sacred Tao art, we can still start again." Ning Cheng looked up at Shi Qianghua in surprise, as he raised his hand and grabbed Shi Qianghua's hand, and spoke in a trembling voice, "Qianghua, are you willing to come with me?" Shi Qianghua did not break away from Ning Cheng's hand, as she looked at Ning Cheng and spoke in a soft voice, "I'm sorry, big brother Ning, I cannot go with you. I have to take the 3rd step, and then, maybe I will come find you." Speaking till the end, Shi Qianghua did not have the confidence to continue. "Did your mother also tell you this?" Ning Cheng felt a sense of loss in his heart. Shi Qianghua remained silent for a while before nodding, "Yes, my mother said that I can't go with you yet. If I go with you, the cultivation of my previous 9 lives would turn into bubbles. Since the founding of my 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond, I am the only one who has the hope of finding the first sect master. My mother and the sect's old ancestor have placed great hopes on me. This is a major event related to my 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond, So you are saying that you are willing to come with me?" Ning Cheng looked at Shi Qianghua's eyes as he spoke one word at a time. Shi Qianghua silently looked at Ning Cheng, and after a while, her eyes slowly softened. "I have never had any thoughts about any man, but in my 9th life, I ended up marrying you. I think I must have used my life to fall in love with you. Even if I cut off the emotions of my 9 lives because of cultivation, I can't cut off this memory." Ning Cheng's feelings for Shi Qianghua disappeared without a trace. He no longer cared about Shi Qianghua being the sacred lady of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond. He tightened his grip and pulled Shi Qianghua into his arms. Shi Qianghua's entire body trembled, before she unexpectedly no longer refused Ning Cheng's embrace. Instead, she quietly hugged Ning Cheng, while her body instantly turned soft. "My husband, if you want me now, then take me away." Ning Cheng suddenly pushed Shi Qianghua away, raised his hand, and dozens of hand seals fell onto Shi Qianghua's body. Ning Cheng forcibly sent several mysterious yellow origin auras into Shi Qianghua's body. Shi Qianghua's rapidly dissipating Tao charm once again condensed under Ning Cheng's hand seals. Ning Cheng wiped the blood from the corner of Shi Qianghua's mouth, clenched his fists and asked, "Qianghua, what's going on?" If it was the 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond's doing, he would have immediately stepped back. Shi Qianghua's eyes turned gloomy. "I don't blame others, it's the cultivation method I cultivate. After I successfully cultivated the 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique, I couldn't bear to cut off the bits and pieces of memories I had with you, so I secretly sealed them. Just now, I felt excited, and my emotional seal broke." Ning Cheng raised his hand and grabbed the 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique jade strip that he had just put aside and swept it with his spiritual consciousness. In just a short time, he understood what was going on. During the 9th life of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique, one had to cut off all the memories and emotions of the previous 8 lives. Shi Qianghua had one more life, and she had successfully cultivated the 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique in her 10th life. Yet, she still dared to retain her emotional memories with him. This was simply courting death. If it weren't for the mysterious yellow origin aura and his powerful cultivation, Shi Qianghua would have already perished. If she retained her emotional memories, there was only one way to solve this hidden danger, and that was to step into the 3rd step. However, once the 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique entered the 3rd step, it would cut off all the sealed memories and emotions. In other words, even if Shi Qianghua actively retained her memories, the 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique's great Tao would also cut it off. At that time, he and Shi Qianghua would become complete strangers. Ning Qing couldn't wait to crush this garbage cultivation method. It was such a difficult cultivation method to cultivate, yet the conditions to successfully cultivate it were so harsh. Did your mother bring you to the Grand Change realm to perfect your 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique? Ning Qing calmed down. He knew that anger wouldn't solve any problems. Shi Qianghua nodded, and, the first sect master of my 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pan stepped into the 3rd step in the Grand Change realm. My mother brought me and my sister here to find the place where the first sect master stepped into the 3rd step and let me stay there for secluded cultivation. Ning Qing took in a deep breath. No wonder Shi Qianqi didn't care about him coming to see Shi Qianghua. It was because she knew that he couldn't take Shi Qianghua away. With Shi Qianghua by his side, the emotional seal would break again at any time. With the feelings between the two of them, not to mention that the emotional seal wouldn't be stable if they stayed together for too long, it would also be normal for the emotional seal to become unstable. As long as Shi Qianghua wasn't by his side, the influence of Shi Qianghua's memories wouldn't be too great. As Shi Qianghua's cultivation continued to deepen, the influence of her memories would also become weaker and weaker. It would also be normal for the Great Tao to cut off her memories after she stepped into the 3rd step. Maybe your mother and 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pan Shi Iqing knew that you sealed the seal, but they deliberately didn't stop you. Ning Qing felt powerless for the first time. If Shi Qianghua stayed by her mother's side, her cultivation would only grow stronger, and the influence of her memories would also weaken. If she stayed by his side, he wouldn't know what would happen in the end. Shi Qianghua wouldn't always have an accident in his arms. Once he left for a while, what would happen? Shi Qianghua shook her head. No, I sealed it myself, Seeing that Shi Qianghua was about to talk about something sad, Ning Qing quickly stopped her from talking. Qianghua, you should cultivate behind your mother. One day, I will find a way to solve it. Ning Qing made up his mind to not take Shi Qianghua away for the time being. Shi Qianghua shook her head and looked at Ning Qing for a while before speaking. I'm afraid that if I really stepped into the 3rd step, I would no longer know who you are. It would be a lie if she didn't know who Ning Qing was. Once Shi Qianghua stepped into the 3rd step, even if she knew who Ning Qing was, she feared that the Great Tao would cut off her emotions and would no longer have any influence on her. Ning Qing looked at Shi Qianghua and said, Qianghua, seal the emotional memories between us again. Just like what you told me before, since we can fall in love once, we can fall in love a second time. If you reach the 3rd step before I find a way, then let me chase after a 3rd step powerhouse as my wife. Shi Qianghua looked at Ning Qing in silence. She suddenly believed that even if she reached the 3rd step one day, Ning Qing could still make her fall in love with him. Qianghua, remember, there is a kind of love that doesn't enter the samsara, regardless of time and space. No matter how strong the Great Tao is, it cannot cut it off. If the Great Tao cuts off that love, then we can do it again. If the Great Tao blocks us from doing it again, then I will cut off that Great Tao. Although I don't have the strength now, one day, I will be able to do it. You have to believe in me. Ning Qing looked into Shi Qianghua's eyes and spoke with a firm voice. Boom boom boom. Just as Ning Qing's voice fell, several roars resounded in the air. It was as if some kind of Great Tao felt that Ning Qing's words were too arrogant. All the people in the courtyard ran out and looked at the thunderous sky in horror, not knowing what had happened. Fortunately, the thunderous roars only lasted for a long time and did not slowly disappear. Shi Qianghua acted as if she did not hear the thunderous roars in the sky. After Ning Qing finished speaking, she solemnly nodded and spoke, I believe in you. Chapter 1244. Ning Qing left. He didn't continue to stay in the Grand Change realm. Before leaving, he put the 9 Dao suppression pagoda into a ring and gave it to Shi Qianghua. He had the everlasting Blue Thunder City and didn't need the 9 Dao suppression pagoda. The 5 elements treasure fall copper coin didn't have much use for Shi Qianghua, so he left the 9 Dao suppression pagoda for Shi Qianghua to slowly refine. With Di Wushuan's cultivation method, it wouldn't be surprising if he wanted to refine the 9 Dao suppression pagoda as soon as possible. But Xianghua was different. Ning Qing hadn't figured out the cultivation method of the 9 Dao suppression pagoda yet, but he knew that a cultivation method that could derive the reincarnation spirit technique definitely wasn't simple. What's more, Xianghua didn't have a time limit for refining this pagoda. From the Grand Change Realm to the Void City of the 5 Realms, and then from the Void City to the closest teleportation array to the Grand Essence Realm, Ning Qing remained silent. He kept thinking about the Grand Dao cultivation method of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao technique. He didn't know if anyone had cultivated the reincarnation spirit technique, nor did he know the difference between the reincarnation spirit technique of the 7 Bridges spirit technique and the reincarnation spirit technique of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao technique. But if the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao technique was truly a branch of the reincarnation spirit technique, then this cultivation method must be a top-grade cultivation method. It wasn't until the old fogey controlled the starry sky will to fly towards the Grand Essence Realm that An Yi spoke up with worry, "Big Brother Ning, some things will be solved when the time comes. You don't have to worry about it. I'm most worried about the Salvation Adversity Poison, one of the top 10 poisons in the world." When Ning Qing heard An Yi's words, he immediately realized that he had neglected An Yi. "An Yi, I'm sorry. I had something on my mind and didn't care about you," Ning Qing apologetically said. He had wrapped up the Salvation Adversity Poison and didn't have the time to detoxify it. An Yi shook her head, "I'm fine. If you hadn't taken away my soul statue, I would have fallen into her hands." "Does that person sense you once you're with your statue?" Ning Qing asked as he recalled the terrifying void suppression from before. An Yi nodded, "Yes, once I get close to my soul statue, I would be sensed." "After you left the Yixing mainland, did you still go to the place where your statue was located?" Ning Qing recalled what An Yi had said before, that she had once gone to the place where her statue was located. An Yi quietly said, "When I was rescued, I knew that it was you who saved me, Big Brother Ning. That Temple of Fallen Stars is very dangerous, and I am afraid that Big Brother Ning might encounter an accident in order to save me, which is why I rushed there in a hurry. Fortunately, Big Brother Ning had already taken away my statue, so that I did not fall into her hands again." "Who the hell is she?" Ning Cheng's heart was filled with a trace of killing intent. An Yi was such a kind and gentle person, yet that person stripped away a trace of her spiritual soul and integrated it into a statue in the Temple of Fallen Stars. It was obviously to suppress something. This method was not much different from suppressing monsters in the underground abyss. An Yi shook her head and said, "I don't know, I only know that she was very beautiful. She was sitting on a lotus pedestal, the lotus pedestal seemed to be missing 3 petals. She wants to suppress the 2 pillars, and I'm not the only one suppressing the 2 pillars. I'm just suppressing the void of the eternal night domain's interface. I've seen those 2 pillars." Ning Qing immediately spoke up. He remembered the 2 pillars they had passed before entering the Temple of Fallen Stars with Song Qinghua. Now that he had advanced to the primordial chaos realm, his knowledge was completely different from before. As such, he did not know what these 2 pillars were. "Then can you merge with the spiritual soul in your statue now?" Ning Qing planned to look at the 2 pillars when he had the time. But now he was worried about An Yi's spiritual soul. If An Yi's spiritual soul was incomplete, her cultivation would definitely stagnate. "No, once I get close to my statue, she will immediately find my position." An Yi shook her head. Ning Qing smiled, "It doesn't matter. Open up your consciousness and follow me." An Yi was completely defenseless against Ning Qing. After listening to Ning Cheng's words, she did not hesitate to open up her consciousness. Ning Qing waved his hand and brought An Yi into the mysterious yellow bead. "Big Brother Ning, is this your world? It's so beautiful." An Yi looked at the vast world of the mysterious yellow bead and exclaimed. Then she saw the statue not far from her, and the feeling of connecting with her soul made it difficult for her to breathe. She knew that as long as she wanted, she could complete her soul at any time. Thinking of this, An Yi subconsciously looked up at the sky. Ning Qing, who was standing on the side, smiled and spoke, "You don't have to worry, this is my territory. Even if the person who stripped your soul was strong, she would not be able to penetrate my world. Is your world not in the universe? And Yi blurted out in shock. In her opinion, as long as she was in the universe, that person would be able to sense her. In her eyes, the strength of that person had already surpassed everything. Ning Qing spoke with certainty, you don't have to worry, no one can come into my world. Without my permission, no one can touch it. You can rest assured that you can merge with your soul here, and then improve your strength. And Yi still shook her head, Big Brother Ning, I still can't merge with my soul. My Tao essence cultivation method was given to me by her. Once I merge with my soul, my strength will definitely cross over to the second step. Once my strength crosses over to the second step, the Tao charm will soon be captured by her. Ning Qing frowned slightly, and after a few minutes, he spoke, then you should change your cultivation method, I can help you derive a cultivation method. And Yi walked up to the statue, and gently stroked her statue. After a while, she spoke in a soft voice, the cultivation method that I originally cultivated is very strong. If the new cultivation method is not as good as the original cultivation method, it would directly backfire on me, and I would not be able to change my cultivation method. Ning Qing smiled, you don't have to worry, even if I don't help you derive a cultivation method, the cultivation method that I take out will not be any weaker than the one she gave you. Have you ever heard of a karma cultivation method? And Yi looked at Ning Qing in amazement, Big Brother Ning, you have a karma cultivation method, which is ranked third among the top 10 cultivation methods. Naturally, it far surpasses the cultivation method that I originally cultivated. Moreover, this karma cultivation method has the Tao sense to dissolve karma, which is the most suitable cultivation method for the current me. That's good. Ning Qing took out 4 ancient jade strips and a ring and put them in Yi's hand, these are the 4 branches of the karma cultivation method. This ring contains the cultivation resources that you need. You can go ahead and cultivate them. And Yi's words were the same as Shi Qianqi's. Ning Qing didn't care about whether it was one of the top 8 cultivation methods or the top 10 cultivation methods. The old fogey also said that he didn't know. For him, as long as he cultivated the top cultivation method, it would be fine. Big Brother Ning, the salvation adversity poison in you. And Yi didn't feel surprised because she got the cultivation method she should have. Instead, she still worried about the salvation adversity poison in Ning Qing. You can cultivate, but I also need to detoxify it. You know that I'm a primordial chaos pill saint with my own good fortune world. This poison can't stop me. Ning Qing spoke with certainty to reassure An Yi. And Yi knew that even if she worried, she couldn't help Ning Qing. The most important thing right now was for her to integrate with her soul as soon as possible and improve her strength. Just a month later, the old fogey came to call Ning Qing. Senior, we've reached the outside of the Grand Essence realm. Ning Qing sighed and walked out of the inner cabin of the Starry Sky Wheel. Over the past month, he had deduced a preliminary detoxification plan for the salvation adversity poison. He needed something that could decompose and corrode spiritual consciousness, and only the illusory sea-crossing crystal could do this. In addition, he also needed a divine grass that could not only stop the dissipating Tao charm but also condense the Tao charm at the same time. Ning Qing had read about the universe vegetation and knew that the stainless water could do this. Whether it was the illusory sea-crossing crystal or the stainless water, they were both extremely rare things. Compared to the void dewdrops, these things weren't any easier to obtain. Ning Qing had only seen them in the universe vegetation. He had participated in many auctions and visited various makeshift merchant houses, but he had never seen or heard of these 2 materials. If it were an ordinary person, these 2 materials would be enough to drive them into despair. But what made people even more desperate was that Ning Qing also deduced that to refine the detoxification pill, apart from these 2 main materials, he also needed one more thing. That was the bestowing lawless fruit. Ning Qing knew the preciousness of the bestowing lawless fruit better than anyone else. It was a treasure of the Blue True Hope tribe, and even he might not be able to obtain it. Fortunately, he had some friendship with Ali of the Blue True Hope tribe. He even gave the Blue True Hope tribe's imperial jade seal to Ali. He had heard that it was the Blue True Hope tribe's ancient desolate wish butterfly. Originally, he thought that he would never have a chance to meet Li again. But now, for the sake of his life, he had to enter the land of broken laws again. Seeing Ning Cheng put away the starry sky wheel and not seeing an E, the old fogey didn't speak any nonsense. It would have been strange if a senior like Ning Cheng didn't have a top-grade world. Even for him, the heaven and earth cauldron had formed a world of its own. Let's go. Ning Cheng called out to the old fogey and landed at the entrance of the Grand Essence Realm's defensive array. Greetings Dao Monarch, Dao Monarch. As soon as Ning Cheng appeared, the cultivators outside the Grand Essence Realm's protective array immediately recognized Ning Cheng and came over to greet him. Although Ning Cheng didn't appear often, Ning Cheng's prestige in the Grand Essence Realm was unmatched. The old fogey followed behind Ning Cheng, feeling very proud in his heart. He felt that he had a good vision, following behind his seniors and occasionally helping them fight. How could he, an expired heavenly emperor, compare to such glory? Dao Monarch is back. Li Feng had already rushed out with a group of people, and even Chu Manhe had followed them. Chu Manhe was in the Dao Perfection realm, and it would be difficult for her to make any progress in a short time. As soon as Ning Cheng came back, she received the news and followed him. When Ning Cheng saw half of the 10 court pillars arrive, he quickly greeted everyone one by one. Dao Monarch Ning Cheng looks even more elegant than before. The prosperity of the Grand Essence Realm is only a matter of time. After Ning Cheng finished greeting everyone, a man squeezed in the corner came forward and congratulated Ning Cheng with cupped fists. So it's Xiao Hutting. Long time no see, long time no see. Ning Cheng chuckled and pretended to have just seen him and greeted him politely. A Dao Perfection powerhouse like Xiao Qiandong, Ning Cheng had already noticed him the moment he arrived. Ning Cheng didn't have much interest in pretending to be polite to someone like Xiao Qiandong, who only cared about benefits. Moreover, Ning Cheng knew the purpose of this guy's visit. He just wanted to invite him to heavens beyond to set up a teleportation array. If Ning Cheng didn't know about the intricate forces in heavens beyond, he might have reluctantly set it up casually. Now, Ning Cheng knew that Li Jianqing in the Great Beginning Realm was dreaming. If he wanted to be more practical, he would go to heavens beyond to occupy a piece of territory first, just like him. Chapter 1245. After exchanging pleasantries, Xiao Qiandong didn't even wait for Ning Cheng to return to Heaven Essence Sacred City's Dao Court before speaking up. Dao Lord Ning promised to arrange a few teleportation arrays for my Taichu Dao Court. But because Dao Lord was busy, I didn't dare disturb you. Now that I'm finally free, I hope that Dao Lord Ning will take the trouble. Without waiting for Xiao Qiandong to finish, Ning Cheng gave out a sigh. Xiao Hutting, I originally planned to go to Absolute Beginning to arrange a teleportation array for Dao Monarch Li. However, when I passed by the Great Change Realm, I learned that the Great Change Realm's underground abyss was overflowing with demonic creatures. Although the Great Change Realm has invaded my Great Simplicity Realm, how can I watch so many innocent people fall into the hands of the devils? I stayed in the Great Change Realm and worked together with Xingwen Realm Lord and the others to kill the devils. Fortunately, we were able to suppress the demon and seal it again. Unfortunately, I was poisoned by the Saha adversity poison. What? Not only was Xiao Qiandong shocked, even Li Feng and the others were looking at Ning Cheng in shock. What was the Shore Calamity poison? This was one of the 10 most notorious poisons in the world. Just think about the vein bone poison that had tortured Kang Xiushan to death. The Shore adversity poison was even more terrifying than the vein bone poison because it had no antidote. Ning Cheng might be a pill sage, but he could also refine Dao detoxification pills. But you also need to have medicinal ingredients for you to refine. No matter how good a chef is, it would be useless if there is no rice to cook. Xiao Qiandong took a deep breath and asked in disbelief, You've really been poisoned by the salvation adversity poison? Ning Cheng nodded cautiously. When I was poisoned by the sorrow poison, Xingwen Realm Lord and many others saw it. Dao friend Xiao doesn't have to go to Grand Change City. You can ask around in the 5 Realms Void City. If I don't find a way to detoxify the poison, I'm afraid I'll die before I reach the absolute beginning. Please forgive me, Xiao Hutting. At that time, Xiao Qiandong had been a two-faced hypocrite, but Ning Qing did not mind playing a hypocrite with him. Not to mention the fact that he was still poisoned, even if the poison was cured, he would not go to absolute beginning to help. That would be courting death. Since Ning Qing had spoken to this point, even if Xiao Qiandong was not tactful, he could only take his leave. Ning Qing, are you really poisoned? Chu Manhe couldn't help but ask as soon as Xiao Qiandong left. Ning Qing gave a heavy nod. That's right, I was indeed poisoned. I came back to see if there's anything else. If there's nothing important, I'll probably go out to find the antidote. But there's no cure for the sorrow poison. Li Feng spoke out in worry. Among all the court pillars, he was the one who cared about Ning Qing the most. Court Lord Li, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. The Saha disaster poison can't do anything to me for now. I can suppress it. I wonder how the battle with the demon vein is going. When Ning Qing left, the Taisu Dao court and the demon vein were still fighting. Although he knew that the Taisu Dao court would definitely win, he did not know the result yet. Phoenix Li hurriedly explained, Dao Lord Proud Dance of the monster lineage battled against fellow Daoist Chu. Dao Lord Proud Dance voluntarily retreated and paid the price. As long as you don't enter the deepest part of the demon vein, the Grand Essence Domain's cultivators can directly cross the demon vein. Ning Qing nodded, the existence of demon veins was necessary. Only through competition and baptism of blood could the Grand Essence realm continue to grow. The demonic beasts of the Grand Essence Sea and the demonic beasts of the demon vein were essential factors for the existence of the Grand Essence realm. By the way, Dao Lord Proud Dance invited you to visit the demon vein. She said that she has something to discuss with you. Phoenix Li spoke up again. Chu Manhe also spoke up, Proud Dance is very powerful. If I fight with all my might, I might not be able to stop her. No one cared about Ning Qing advancing from Dao Essence to Dao Origin Realm in just one trip. They had long since become numb to Ning Cheng's cultivation speed. Ning Qing pondered for a moment before saying, I'll go back to the Grand Essence Mountain first, and then leave the Grand Essence Realm. Are you looking for a cure for the sorrow poison? Chu Manhe asked worriedly. Too many people knew about the sorrow poison, so Ning Qing didn't bother to hide it. Yes, I'm going to detoxify it. As for meeting Proud Dance, I'll push it back. Ning Qing cared about the Grand Essence realm, but he couldn't ignore his own life and death. He could suppress the sorrow poison now, but it was still one of the top 10 poisons in the world. Moreover, it was one of the top 10 poisons without a cure. If he couldn't suppress it one day, wouldn't he just be waiting for death? The first place he wanted to go after returning was the land of broken laws to look for the bestowing lawless fruit. After finding the bestowing lawless fruit, he would immediately head to the mysterious yellow heavens beyond to look for the mirage sea crystal and stainless water along the way. He also planned to ask Ching Ho Tian to help him find these two things. He knew that these two things couldn't be placed in the Grand Essence realm. Such extremely rare top-grade treasures could only appear in the mysterious yellow heavens beyond. Ning Qing was poisoned, and the Grand Essence Dao Court didn't have any major issues. Naturally, no one came to waste Ning Cheng's time. Ning Cheng, Chu Manhe, and the old fogey returned directly to the Grand Essence Mountain. The old fogey knew that the Grand Essence Mountain was Ning Cheng's residence. Coupled with the beautiful environment and abundant spiritual qi, he immediately asked Ning Cheng for a mountain peak and settled down here. The old fogey knew about Ning Cheng's search for the 5 Earths. Moreover, Ning Cheng was a Dao Lord of the Grand Essence Dao Court. How could he not guess that Ning Cheng wanted to repair the Grand Essence Realm? Regardless of whether Ning Cheng could repair the Grand Essence Realm or not, he had no intention of leaving this place. Ning Ruoqing and Ning Rulin were still in seclusion. Therefore, when Ji Luofei learned that Ning Cheng had returned, she immediately stopped cultivating. After learning that Ning Cheng was poisoned by the Salvation Adversity poison, she couldn't wait to go out with Ning Cheng to find the antidote. But thinking that Ning Ruolan and Ning Ruoqing were both in the Grand Essence Mountain, Ji Luofei resisted the idea of going out with Ning Qing. Ning Qing stayed in the Grand Essence Mountain for a day before leaving the Grand Essence Realm. And Yi was still in the process of fusing with her spirit soul and even had to change her cultivation method. Therefore, she could only stay in the mysterious yellow bead. Land of Broken Laws. This was Ning Cheng's second time coming here. The first time, he had been chased by Man Huishan and escaped with the help of the Land of Broken Laws. But this time, he specifically came to the Land of Broken Laws to look for the bestowing lawless fruit. As soon as Ning Qing entered the Land of Broken Laws, he felt a suppression without any laws. Here, his spiritual consciousness instantly weakened to the lowest level, and even his Dao charm aura felt restrained. Unlike when he was in the Eternal Realm, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness could sweep out without any hindrance. This was because his great Dao had long since surpassed ordinary Dao fusion powerhouses and formed his own Law Dao charm. Law spirit techniques couldn't be used in the Land of Broken Laws. But for Ning Cheng, who already had an embryonic form of the Dao of returning to one, he could still use his law spirit techniques here. It's just that the power would drop without limit. For Ning Cheng, the speed of a starry sky battleship was just too slow. At his level, he didn't need a starry sky battleship to travel through the Land of Broken Laws. In just a dozen days, Ning Cheng once again arrived outside the canyon of the Blue True Hope tribe. This time, he mainly came here to look for the bestowing lawless fruit. Even if he passed through the Valley of Peace, he didn't bother to go in and take a look. Ning Cheng had come here once before, and he knew that the Blue True Hope tribe's territory lay beyond this canyon. If he were still in the Eternal Realm, Ning Cheng would never have dared to cross the canyon like this. At that time, he had risked his life to steal the bestowing lawless fruit. If it weren't for Li's help, he would have fallen into Lan Bing's hands a second time. Lan Bing was beautiful to the extreme, but also vicious to the extreme. Ning Cheng believed that the Blue True Hope tribe wouldn't pose too much of a threat to him right now. Therefore, he still walked into the canyon with extreme caution. In this place, his strength was suppressed to less than 1/10,000th. Therefore, he had to be careful. Not to mention the vicious Lan Bing, even the Blue True Hope tribe's statue plaza was a bit strange. Lan Bing's chanting not only suppressed a cultivator's spiritual consciousness, but it could also release an attack. Ning Cheng estimated that with his body refining strength, even if Lan Bing attacked him, it wouldn't cause any fatal injuries. However, the Blue True Hope tribe was a bit strange. Who knew if they had other killing moves? It wasn't the first time Ning Cheng had seen a boat capsized in a ditch. Any race that was able to survive would definitely have their own means. Despising these races would only lead to death. Ning Cheng would never underestimate the Blue True Hope tribe just because he had the strength to deal with Dao perfection experts. Passing through the canyon, Ning Cheng only saw one or two unfamiliar Hope tribesmen standing guard beside the statue in the plaza. Compared to the last time he came here, this place looked even colder. Ning Cheng's gaze suddenly fell in front of the statue, and he couldn't even believe his eyes. Li knelt in front of the statue with her upper body naked and seemed to be praying devoutly. No, Ning Cheng quickly saw that Li wasn't praying, but was imprisoned in front of the statue. Ning Cheng immediately thought of Lan Bing. This woman had imprisoned his essence spirit in front of the statue to worship. Now, it seemed that she had placed Li here to worship. Unlike him back then, Li was imprisoned here along with her corporeal body. Ning Cheng clearly remembered that this beautiful woman, Li, was Lan Bing's aunt and seemed to be the previous queen. If this was done by Lan Bing, then this woman was too vicious. After just a few breaths, Ning Cheng knew that he had guessed correctly. It was indeed done by Lan Bing. His spiritual consciousness swept into Lan Bing's room and saw Lan Bing sitting on the pink bed, stroking her eyebrows. There was a butterfly-shaped mark between her eyebrows. A familiar aura arrived, causing Ning Cheng to suspect that the butterfly imprint was actually his imperial jade seal. But he had given the hope-powered jade seal to Li, so why was it with Lan Bing? If Li had given his jade seal to Lan Bing, then Lan Bing wouldn't have imprisoned Li in front of the statue, right? Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness once again fell on the butterfly mark and confirmed that he wasn't mistaken. This butterfly mark was the aura of his jade seal. When Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept past Lan Bing seemed to feel something and suddenly raised her head to look in Ning Cheng's direction. Ning Cheng quickly retracted his spiritual consciousness. He felt that the Blue True Hope tribe wasn't simple. Chapter 1246. Knowing that Lan Bing could even sense his spiritual consciousness, Ning Cheng didn't continue to use his spiritual consciousness to check on Lan Bing. He decided to steal the bestowing lawless fruit first. Once he obtained it, he would come back to save Athalie. As for Lan Bing, he didn't intend to do anything to her in the Blue True Hope tribe's lair. If this woman dared to chase after him, he would kill her directly. The Blue True Hope tribe's lair was a bit strange, especially the statue. Now that his cultivation was suppressed and the poison had yet to be cured, he couldn't let anything go wrong. After waiting for a few minutes, Ning Cheng didn't see Lan Bing come out. So, he circled around the square where the statue was located. What made Ning Cheng frown was that he didn't see the two trees like last time. Since he couldn't see the two trees, he couldn't find the location of the bestowing lawless fruit. The last time he came here, he had arranged a temporary teleportation array. But this time, there was no teleportation array. From the looks of it, he could only find the two hidden trees to enter the location of the bestowing lawless fruit. Although there were no laws here and his spiritual consciousness was suppressed, Ning Cheng wasn't worried about not being able to find the place. If he couldn't find this concealment array with his attainments in the Tao of Arrays, then no one in the Grand Essence realm would be able to find it. Ning Cheng took out a few array flags and carefully threw them out. In less than half an incense stick worth of time, the two hidden giant trees appeared in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng put away the array flags without hesitation, and before the two giant trees could hide themselves again, he disappeared into the giant trees. A place filled with all kinds of broken laws appeared in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng wasn't unfamiliar with this place. He had come here once before. The last time he came here, he had followed Joey to help the Blue True Hope tribe kill the enemies, but the result was disappointing. If it weren't for him being a body-refining powerhouse, Lan Bing would have killed him back then. Lan Bing, this woman, had no gratitude in her eyes, only benefits. With her temperament, snatching her aunt's jade seal and imprisoning her aunt to worship the statue, she was completely capable of doing such a thing. After Ning Cheng stopped, his spiritual consciousness swept out a little further and found that the white mist still lingering around it was still there. Ning Cheng's figure flashed and disappeared into it. Just like the last time, Ning Cheng only saw two ripple-like gray fruits. The number was far less than the last time. He didn't know if they were hidden in another location or not. This gray fruit-like spiritual sense couldn't penetrate it, and it looked incomparably illusory. Without any hesitation, Ning Cheng took out two jade boxes and put the two bestowing lawless fruits into the jade boxes. With Ning Cheng's strength, even if his spiritual consciousness was suppressed, he would still be extremely cautious in doing these things. Even so, as soon as he put away the two bestowing lawless fruits, the white mist around him suddenly dissipated, and the next moment, his whole body was exposed. An even more terrifying heaven and earth's suppressive strength descended upon him. In just a breath of time, his divine sense rapidly shrank. Ning Cheng felt shocked. In just one or two breaths, his strength would fall to the point where he couldn't even compare to an eternal cultivator. This Blue True Hope tribe really is a bit strange. His great Tao was solid, and his sea of consciousness was strong. That was why he was able to react when his strength was suppressed into nothingness. If it were someone else, they might not even be able to escape. Ning Cheng was extremely decisive. In this kind of suppression, the first thing he did was to go around the two hidden giant trees. His cultivation was suppressed to the extreme, but his array Tao level was still there. He had just broken this top-grade concealment array not too long ago, so it didn't take him much effort to get out. Ning Cheng had just walked out of the two giant trees when he heard a sharp cry coming from behind. He was familiar with this voice. It was Lan Bing. If it weren't for this place being too strange, he would have killed Lan Bing with a single slap. With the bestowing lawless fruits in hand, and two at that, Ning Qing naturally wouldn't stay here any longer. He rushed directly to the public square where the statue was located. But before Ning Qing could leave with Li, who was worshipping on the public square, the same terrifying pressure descended. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness continued to fall sharply, and even his spirit essence was suppressed. At this moment, Ning Qing wasn't in the mood to care about these things. With a wave of his hand, he broke through the power of hope restriction imprisoning Li and rushed out of the canyon with Li. Just as Ning Qing left, Lan Bing landed on the public square. She looked in the direction where Ning Qing disappeared in shock, her whole body trembling. She wasn't just angry, but also afraid. Under the double suppression of the Blue True Hope Tribe's statue in the land of broken laws and her, the king, the other party could break through the power of hope and take away a person. Just how terrifying was his strength? With such strength, not to mention snatching away two bestowing lawless fruits and taking away a person. He might even be able to destroy the entire lair of her Blue True Hope Tribe. After understanding this, Lan Bing no longer dared to chase after him. Here, she could still call herself a king. But once she went out, facing such a powerhouse, she, Lan Bing, wouldn't even count as an ant. The Blue True Hope Tribe couldn't stay here. They had to move again. This was Lan Bing's only thought. She subconsciously looked up at the increasingly dim statue of the Blue True Hope Tribe. She thought that after finding the ancient desolate Hope Butterfly, it would only be a matter of time before the Blue True Hope Tribe grew stronger in her hands. But now, it seemed that things weren't that simple. As for her Aunt Li being taken away, she didn't think much about it. Her Aunt Li worshipped in the public square with her upper body bare. Only she could compare to her beauty in the entire Blue True Hope Tribe. Any male cultivator who came here would probably want to take her back and serve her. After Ning Qing walked out of the canyon, he slowed down. He had no intention of escaping at all. If Lan Bing dared to chase after him, he wouldn't mind teaching this woman a lesson. He didn't believe that Lan Bing would be able to suppress his strength indefinitely once he left the Blue True Hope Tribe's territory like she did inside. Looking for a flat place, Ning Qing put Li on the ground. Li remained unconscious, as if she had fallen into an endless sleep. Even if Ning Qing removed the shackles on her, she still remained unconscious. Ning Qing had come into contact with the power of hope and could vaguely feel that Li was constantly using her vitality and spirit soul to worship a wish. Ning Qing didn't need to ask to know that this was Lan Bing's doing. If Ning Qing still had the same cultivation as the last time he came here, he could only watch helplessly in the face of such a situation. But now, even in the land of broken laws, Ning Qing didn't care about the shackles of the power of hope. He raised his hand and placed hundreds of handprints on Li's body again, causing the loss of Li's life force and power of hope to gradually weaken. Her spirit, which had been worshipping for a long time, also slowly stabilized. When Ning Qing put 2 medicinal pills into Li's mouth, she finally woke up. Ning Qing took out a robe and put it on her without saying anything. He could tell that Li had been worshipping the statue here for many years now. If he had come a year or two later, Li would have become a soulless person forever worshipping the statue. "It's you, Ning Qing." Li recognized Ning Qing and struggled to stand up. Her face was pale, and her vitality was so fragile that it could dissipate at any moment. Ning Qing sighed and said, "It's me. How did you end up like this? Did Lan Bing imprison you and make you worship the Blue True Hope Tribe statue?" Li looked back at the canyon not far away and looked at Ning Qing in panic. "Did you kill Lan Bing? Did you destroy the Blue True Hope Tribe?" Ning Qing shook his head. "Not yet, but I can help you take revenge. As long as I'm ready, I can easily kill Lan Bing." Ning Qing wasn't bragging. He had almost been imprisoned by the Hope Tribe's power of hope in the middle of the public square. Now, he had to go in from the outside. Using an array formation to break in and being imprisoned inside were two different things. "Don't!" Li quickly cried out. After that, she looked at Ning Qing in panic. "Please don't destroy the Blue True Hope Tribe. It's not easy for the Hope Tribe to survive to this day." Li only attacked me for the sake of the Hope Tribe. I'm sorry, but the ancient desolate Hope Butterfly you gave me. Not waiting for Li to finish, Ningqing spoke up in a calm voice, I know. Since I gave it to you, it's yours. Did she discover the ancient desolate wish butterfly on your body and made a move on you to snatch it away? Li nodded, my blue true Hope Tribe is a grateful race. The reason we can survive until now is because of gratitude. Lan Bing's heart is too cruel and her temperament is too cold. I don't think she's suitable to lead my blue true Hope Tribe, so I didn't plan to give her the ancient desolate Hope Butterfly. Just when I was about to leave here and go out to find a suitable king for my blue true Hope Tribe, she learned that I had the ancient desolate Hope Butterfly. You know what happened next? This woman is too vicious. I'm sure that the blue true Hope Tribe would perish in her hands. What are you going to do now? Do you still want to go back? Ningqing asked. If Li wanted to go back, Ningqing would never stop her. Everyone had their own beliefs, and Li was willing to dedicate her life to the blue true Hope Tribe. Ningqing didn't have many words to persuade her. Besides, he still couldn't figure out why he was poisoned. Li looked at the canyon for a while before slowly shaking her head, my power of hope and life have all been handed over to the statue. From now on, I'm no longer a member of the Blue True Hope Tribe. Since you don't want to go back, then come out with me. I don't have anything else here, but I have a lot of cultivation methods. Ningqing waved his hand and said. He didn't have the slightest good impression of the Blue True Hope Tribe. As for taking away the two bestowing lawless fruits, he didn't feel even the slightest bit of remorse. The ancient desolate Hope Butterfly was the Blue True Hope Tribe's premier treasure. Moreover, the ancient desolate Hope Butterfly that Lan Bing snatched away belonged to him. He had given it to Li, not Lan Bing. Li suddenly knelt on the ground. Li is willing to worship you as a master. Please, master. Ningqing looked at Li in a daze. I'm younger than you. How can I be your master? Li's eyes looked a little bleak, but she didn't speak. Ningqing immediately understood what she meant. Li had always stayed in the Blue True Hope Tribe. Now that she came out of the Blue True Hope Tribe, she had neither the power of hope nor any cultivation. One could say that she wasn't even as good as an ordinary person. If she was sent to any place, with her appearance, the only chance she had was to become someone's plaything and die. Therefore, she wanted to worship him as a master to find someone to rely on.